Yeah.
Because I can't even give you grief
If you just want to grab
about
it.
passwords.
Okay, cool.
It should work, or even a couple minutes before.
Yeah, thanks. Hit your rings. Better make sure they vibrate.
Oh, yeah. Didn't do that.
Yep,
I would have seemed like an alarm.
yep, so no, it's exactly like my full-time. 100% like my full-time. Just different.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order, please. That includes you guys in the hallway. Okay? Thank you. Tonight's meeting is the Tuesday, March 18th meeting, 2025. A call to order. Those of you who can stand, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Supervisor Kowal,
Here.
Clerk Noble here, Treasurer Trustee Ruggles.
Here.
Trustee Voorhees,
Present.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Okay. Need a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I have a motion from Mr. Noble, looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Andrew Voorhees. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next item, public comment. Public comment is typically for items that are not on the agenda. You'll have 3 minutes to state your business. You'll have to put your name and identification for the recorder. Anyone at this time for public comment? I heard a little public comment back there. Okay. Seeing none, moving on. Moving on to consent agenda. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Supervisor Cole, I'd like to pull item L from the consent agenda for discussion, please. Part-time hire for the secretary for the building department.
I have is that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Motion, anyone want to second that?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll remove L for discussion. A through K on consent agenda, revenue expenses, check disbursements, list of bills, department reports, fire, community development, treasurer's report, senior advisory council, a BlackRock order of recension, emergency purchase notice of water meters, and secretary attorney agreement. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. That part of the consent. Item L.
Thank you. My concerns with the part-time secretary for the building department, I completely understand the need with some staff going on a sick leave. But the word of 2024 in White Lake Township and the board was comparables. Where were the comparables for this position? We've had concerns of the past when other staff members have moved from other departments to other departments and take a pay cut. And yes, I realize this person is not working full-time, so I can't compare her to a full-time person, but I know it's happened in the past. I realize this person has no benefits. She's working part-time. But how did this dollar amount come? Can we compare it? Are they getting a wage from the previous office and going right into this office?
In a part-time position, the wage was just transferred over from one office to the other.
So are they going from one department to the next? But I still didn't see comparables. Like I said, the word of 2024 was comparables. And
Well, we
there's no
did-
comparable.
Yeah, we had a lot of conversation about the certain positions in the past, and this particular wage was an attractive wage to try to retain and keep people that we have that are proven to be performers within the department they're working at and could move laterally and fit into the program. Yes, Mr. O'Neill?
I could just add, because it's our request, that this is, again, the wage that this individual is making in another department that she works part-time in. So it was just a request to allow our department to pay her this wage because it's beyond what the base wage is. So she's just moving from one department, doing high-level work there on a part-time basis, to our department to do the same thing for the exact same wage. No more, no less.
So was this dollar amount talked about with the full-timers? Because I know you have a committee that's brought in, and, I mean, why bring it to us when it sounds like it's already been predetermined that this was going to happen with the in-house wage committee?
So I did seek the counsel of the supervisor, clerk, and treasurer, explaining what we were asking for, and obtained, their at least verbal support, but it was also acknowledged that it had to come to the full board.
Okay, because I don't agree with it.
Mr. Roman?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so the position that this person is taking, looking at that position, Sean, if you had to break down that position's hourly rate, I think it would have been more than what we're going to pay this temp employee.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, so that was my comparable, Andrea.
So if someone changes from other two departments, are you going to bring them up to that wage then, that they left?
I think that's a fair deal.
Okay.
And
So then now if we transfer from other departments to other department, we won't ever get a decrease.
Well, I think what we're trying to say here is we did vote on that wage. It was a temporary / full-time during election season, which was Rita, which then transferred to the employee we're talking about. We voted on that, got that wage up, and then this board voted for a 3% raise recently for that, all employees, so that person gets that, which puts her up to that wage that you see. And if you break it down, what she'll be doing, she's QVF certified and et cetera, with the duties of being in the clerk. So that was, due to some people being out, it was an emergency situation.
Oh, absolutely. I get
She would
that.
actually be making less than what Mr. Neal was saying for what she would be doing for the job. She'll be taking over a lot of responsibility, part-time until we can backfill that, not that, or that person comes back, and then we're gonna have some retirements and things like that.
Yeah, I just don't like,
So it was looked at by HR, and it was looked at by Supervisor Colwell, who is HR, who then came to us, and it came to Sean, and we're not trying to
and I'm
pull
not
the
saying
wool
this
over
person's not
anything.
worthy of it. I just was looking at the whole big picture.
And when we're talking comparables, you're talking about a union position. This
Absolutely.
is not a union position. This is a part-time position. We had a person that worked in our building that went from different departments, and they kept that rate of pay. Actually, Supervisor Colwell jumped that pay up without coming to the board.
Yeah,
That was in the past.
We've just been trying.
I wouldn't be doing my due diligence
It's
if I
extremely
didn't ask more
difficult to
questions.
attract talent. So right now, it's still a competitive market, and we have someone that's
absolutely.
proven.
Don't think you're keeping her.
Yeah, the
no,
term of this is just for the remainder of 2025. That is the
right.
predetermined period of time.
Any other question?
I'm good.
Anything else?
Great question, so.
Moving on. And see as that is partially there and we're there, make a motion to approve the part-time hire secretary for building department at the wage in the description. I make that in the form of a motion.
Support.
I have support from Mr. Ruggles. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. Next item, minutes. Approval of minutes of regular board meeting, February 18th, 2025. Anyone have questions or comments on the minutes?
Motion to approve minutes from February 18th, 2025.
I have a motion from Mr. Roman, looking for support.
Support.
I have a support from,
Mr. Anderson?
you were pretty quick. We'll give it to you. Okay, Mr. Anderson.
Oh, I didn't know.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Presentation. Chief, the floor is yours. You put them in whatever order you want.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. If Sergeant Saracen, Officer DeClaudio, and Officer Wright could please come up. All right, come here before you to discuss a department citation for outstanding performance with these three gentlemen. On May 1st, 2024, while checking the Meyer parking lot, Sergeant Saracen noticed a red sedan driving at a high rated speed with its lights off. The vehicle exited the lot westbound onto Highland Road, then turned eastbound onto Highland Road. through the Michigan left. Sergeant Saracen was able to catch up to the vehicle near Elizabeth Lake Road and obtain the plate. The vehicle abruptly entered the Kroger parking lot. Sergeant Saracen could not follow due to the traffic, so he ran the plate and received a stolen vehicle hit in lien. The remarks stated that the vehicle was also wanted in connection to a homicide and a carjacking. While searching the Kroger lot, Sergeant Saracen contacted Officer DeClaudio and relayed the information. On his way to the Kroger parking lot, Officer DeClaudio noticed a vehicle matching the stolen car south on Oxbow Lake Road, so he turned to follow. The driver of the stolen vehicle, a red Toyota Yaris, accelerated and turned off his headlights. Officer DeClaudio turned on his overhead lights and accelerated to catch up with the fleeing vehicle. He witnessed the stolen vehicle, now at over 70 miles per hour in a 45-mile-per-hour zone, cross the center line and pass another vehicle. Shortly after, the stolen vehicle, unable to navigate the curves, struck the guardrail near Astola. Officer DeClaudio arrived immediately after and performed a felony stop on the driver, holding him at gunpoint until backup arrived. Sergeant Saracen and Officer Wright arrived quickly after. Sergeant Saracen verbally commanded the subject to exit the vehicle and directed him to the front of the patrol vehicle. The subject complied with the commands. Once in a safe position, Officer Wright handcuffed the driver and performed a search, finding credit cards belonging to the stolen vehicle's owner and merchandise purchased with the card from Meyer. Officer Wright then placed the driver in the rear of Officer DeClaudio's vehicle. Officer DeClaudio and Sergeant Saracen searched the stolen vehicle and found several additional stolen credit cards. Dispatch confirmed the vehicle was stolen with the Ann Arbor Police Department and provided Sergeant Saracen's phone number to Ann Arbor to confirm the identification. Ann Arbor Police gave Sergeant Saracen a detailed description, including a picture and clothing the driver wore during the vehicle theft. Officer DeClaudio's driver matched Ann Arbor Police suspect description. Per Ann Arbor, the driver, last name of Nash, was also wanted for an investigation of a homicide of his brother in Detroit and a carjacking in Ypsilanti. Officer DeClaudio read Nash's rights. He attempted to provide a false name and denied stealing the vehicle. After speaking with Ann Arbor Police, Sergeant Saracen was able to direct his interview questions to confirm Nash's identity and illegal use of the credit cards used to make purchases at the White Lake Meyer. Nash was placed under arrest for fleeing elude, possession of a stolen vehicle, illegal use of credit cards, and operating while license suspended. He was transported to Oakland County Jail after booking on our charges. Ann Arbor Police notified both Detroit and Ypsilanti Police Departments of the suspect's arrest. Detroit Homicide responded to jail within a few hours to complete their homicide investigation, and he is currently awaiting trial, which begins next month, April 20th, 2025. Sergeant Saracen, Officer DeClaudio, and Officer Wright's quick actions led to the apprehension of a dangerous perpetrator who was being investigated in the homicide of his brother, bold enough to carjack an individual to make a quick getaway and later steal another vehicle to cover his tracks. The officers undoubtedly stopped several additional felonious attacks and future crimes. I want to congratulate you on your effort.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Yep.
Congratulations, man. Sergeant Saracen. There you go. All right, this is a great night. I will tell you, Sergeant Saracen will become the 12th lieutenant in the history of the White Lake Township Police Department, so I'm super proud of him and can't wait for him to become the next patrol lieutenant. So just a little bit about Tom. I first want to introduce his wife, Rainey. Where are we at? All right. Kids, Quinn and Reese. They're all smiling. Oh, yeah. That's going to be awesome. Also, we have Tom's family and Rainey's family as well. If you guys could just wave. You guys look super excited. There we go. They're all over the place. There's lots of them. All right, a little bit about Tom. Sergeant Saracen grew up in Commerce Township and graduated from Milford High School in 2007. He attended and graduated from Northern Michigan University in 2011 with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He worked as a police officer for the Northern Michigan University Police Department in Chocolate Township. All right, Chocolate Township. Police Department from 2012 to 2013. He began working for White Lake Township Police Department as an officer in 2013. Since beginning his career with the White Lake Township Police Officer, he has worked as an officer, a school resource officer, a detective, and a sergeant. Sergeant Saracen is a member of the Oakland County Mobile Field Force, Crisis Intervention Team Coordinator, Forensics Evidence Specialist, Union Vice President, Field Training Officer, and Supervisor of the program, Taser Instructor, Chemical Weapons Instructor, Defensive Tactics Instructor, and De-Escalation Instructor, as well as a Mental Health Instructor, Recruiting Team Supervisor, Peer Support, and Critical Incident Stress Supervisor. So he's worn many, many hats, which has prepared him excellently for this job. Sergeant Saracen has also assisted other agencies with their mock accreditation assessments. Sergeant Saracen has been teaching as an instructor with the Lerda Police Academy since 2014 and the Oakland Police Academy since 2020. He has received 6 meritorious service citations and 1 life-saving award. He was also Officer of the Year in 2017 and received the FBI Biometric Identification Award in 2022. So he's well-deserved in this position. I can't wait for him to start, and he's going to do a great job. Clerk Noble, if you want to swear him in.
Please raise your hand. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Police Lieutenant for the Township of White Lake, County of Oakland, and State of Michigan according to the best of my ability. So help me God. I do. Congratulations. Welcome.
All right. Got to get to the fun part real quick. So this is going to be the fun part when Quinn and Reese are going to try to pin the badge on Dad. So lots of poking. All right. Love it. All right, come here and sign this, and then you can shake their hands.
Wasn't too bad.
Wasn't good. That wasn't bad at all.
Congratulations.
Congrats. Get tired of police work. We have an HR opening.
Oh, Dad. Congratulations. I'm gonna take a pay cut.
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
All right.
Oh, very cute. I would like to recognize that there are quite a few people here from our department. We are very supportive, and we are a huge family. And it just shows everybody's here because of Tom and his dedication to this police department. I just wanted to appreciate everybody that came, and job well done, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you. Gotta let you guys clear the room for a minute. If you're going to remain in the building, please close the lobby doors.
I know, I agree.
More than half. Earlies are still here, though.
Good.
I know so much stuff.
Yeah, it's great. Tell you one more presentation.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not okay with it, but did she fill you in?
All right. Well, moving on to our next item. Our Oakland County Treasurer, Robert Wittenberg, was going to be here this evening, but he was unavoidably detained by a conflict of interest. So he asked me to present to the audience here and to our public the importance of the County Treasurer's Office of the Foreclosure Program. Prevention program. So the Oakland County Treasurer's Office is in the final stretch of our foreclosure prevention efforts. The tax foreclosure deadline for the 2022 and/or prior year taxes is on March 31st, 2025. That means if these taxes aren't paid off by March 31st or any interest hasn't entered into interested party hasn't entered into a repayment schedule with the treasurer's office by then, the property will be foreclosed. Since December of 2024, the treasurer's office has conducted over 1,000 taxpayer assistance meetings to assist taxpayers with keeping their properties by working with them to get on a repayment schedule and/or by identifying resources that may be beneficial to them and their situation. We're here to help and strongly encourage taxpayers to contact us before tax foreclosure deadline if they have delinquent taxes for 22 and/or prior tax years. Taxpayers interested in scheduling a taxpayer assistance meeting may call us at 248-858-0611. Again, 248-858-0611. 0611, or they may visit www.oakgov.com/treasurer. And that is on behalf of Robert Wittenberg, our Oakland County Treasurer. All right, thank you. So very important, it's your most treasured asset that I'm sure you'd like to protect. So any persons out there that are having issues, I highly recommend you contact Oakland County Treasurer's Office. Next item is going to be item 9A. It's the preliminary site plan approval for Elizabeth Trace. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you. Good evening again, Board. Before you tonight is an oldie but a goodie. Back in 2004, we had a project called Elizabeth Trace that was approved for townhomes and is on your screen right now. And after building not quite half of the units, the property slowed, stopped, and I think really went into foreclosure. The property is kicked around over the years to a number of owners, and I think currently, if the applicant hasn't closed on the land yet, the homeowners association owns this land. There were originally 27 units proposed to be built on what you can see in a darker shade of gray on your screen. The applicant, Mr. Pisecki with PH Homes, came to us several months ago seeking approval to build a little different product, but at a very similar density. They are, and I'll show you the elevations here in a minute, they are what he believes to be a more marketable product. He has road infrastructure, storm, sewer, water infrastructure that is already in existence. So the siting of the slightly different product was a little bit challenging for him, kind of as he tried to fit this puzzle together. But obviously the township and the HOA wanted to see this project completed. So he went to the Planning Commission at their last meeting on March 6th, and at that time, is kind of in the spirit of moving this along because it's pretty straightforward. He was seeking preliminary and final site plan approval, knowing that he had to come here to get your preliminary approval, and that he'd also need to make a trip to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a handful of variances that are driven by the change, largely the change in footprint of the, what he and what our department believe is a more marketable condominium product. The Planning Commission recommended approval of preliminary and then also granted final site plan approval, again, subject to your concurrence on preliminary and the ZBA variances. There were a couple of other conditions. They wanted to see some architectural improvements. I will show you what the rear of the buildings look like. Previously, they were proposing about a 3'8" strip of brick on the sides and on the rear with a straight roof line. That, according to the Planning Commission, didn't match as well with what was out there, and at the staff level, we agree. And so they made a motion to approve it with 6 feet of brick on the sides and rear, and some dormers or roof peaks added to the rear of the structure to kind of break up the straight roof line, which is what you have before. Actually, Mr. Pisecki just sent this over to me today, and it's something that the Planning Commission gave direction to the staff to just administratively make sure it was added to the plan, and I'm happy to be able to share this with you today so you can see the brick of belt on the sides and in the rear, and then the roof lines kind of broken up with these peaks to match more closely what's already been built out there. So you've got a pretty robust set of review comments, and really the Planning Commission was okay with them, just subject to you guys being on board and the Zoning Board of Appeals granting a variance. One thing that's not clear is there's a requirement for a sidewalk now to be built on the frontage, and the Planning Commission is requiring the sidewalk to be built from what I think they consider to be the area where the lawn is maintained out in front of the development, which is roughly in this area. It's about 500 feet of sidewalk, 6-foot sidewalk. As you move further to the east, there's a wetland area that is on the east side of this property, and the shoulder gets very narrow. The applicant didn't feel, and we have some question as to whether or not the road commission would allow for a sidewalk to be built so close to the back of the road, which would be necessary in order to build a sidewalk as opposed to a boardwalk through a wetland. And because the Planning Commission felt this doesn't lead anywhere at this point, they were okay approving it with just this 500 feet in, subject to the Zoning Board of Appeals granting a variance for the 250-ish or so feet, I think, 300 feet that would be on the east side. And that's kind of where that requirement left off. So other than that, it's really pretty straightforward. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Again, Mr. Pisecki and his engineer, Mr. Tom Gazzoni, are here if you have any questions for them as well.
All right, any questions from the board this time? Mr. Rose?
Yeah, I've got a question. If we make a motion to not make them build the sidewalk to the east, does he still need a variance?
Yes, he would. The ordinance requires it, so he would need a variance.
Okay.
However, the Planning Commission's indicated that it's not a sticking point for them, so if you were to do the same, I think it would send an indication to the ZBA that, you, like the Planning Commission, are in support of not building a boardwalk and instead a sidewalk if it's doable, but there's a lot of time that needs to really go into exploring that further with the Road Commission. That's kind of one that's hanging out there without any clear answer in sight in the short term.
Any other questions from the board members? Well, I'm glad to see that this is going to be finished off. This has been an area that's been on, in particular, Sean's on my radar for many, many years. So it's nice to see that this is going to be finished off with a little different product, because I think obviously they had degree in difficulty selling the product that they have. And I think this will be a better product for that particular area. The sidewalk issue is an issue that you're going to have to go through the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as some of the other elements that you have related to this. Overall, I think that the planning commission didn't have a real problem with any of this, from what I'm gathering. I did not read any of the minutes, but I know when they have a recommendation going forward, usually it's a pretty good indication. Would you care to elaborate on that, Mr. Ruggles?
No, I think Sean summed it up pretty well. You know, the sidewalk going to the west makes sense. It's going to go to a development that's coming, so as far as the rest of the road, there is no sidewalk. Making him put one to the east doesn't make any sense. It goes nowhere. It's incredibly expensive, especially considering that it's wetland and there's a lot of it. So our opinion was going to the east, or at least mine, didn't make any sense at all. Some of the commissioners thought that it should. That's why it said in the minutes that it should be explored. So that's how we came to that. But like I said, Elizabeth Lake Road doesn't have any sidewalks anywhere except for the new development. But going to the west, it makes sense to have a sidewalk.
Right.
The bump outs on the buildings, I think we actually had a number at the planning commission, how many we wanted to see. And Mr. O'Neill might have that.
I think they were saying 2 to 3, and they were focusing on bump outs, but instead he's provided 4 breaks in the roof pitch, and I feel like that's an adequate substitute because he's broken up more of the roof line, and I think actually bumping out the back of the unit, and I can show you if you'd like to see what that looks like in the existing, it is a little more complicated because it would change a lot more of kind of the layout and design. This is what we're talking about. You can see there's some relief in the roof line, but in a couple of spots, it bumps out and you
So
can see.
it's consistent with what's there architecturally?
It is. There's 3 breaks in the roof and a couple in the wall, like relief in the wall, but in this case, he's providing 4, and I think that is a equal substitute. It's fair, and I don't have any objection to
Yeah,
it at
due to the
all.
length of the building and everything, yeah.
It's reasonable, yes.
So, anything else you want to add? Mr. Bazecki, do you have anything? Please come up and identify yourself.
Craig Pisecki, PH Homes. One question regarding the sidewalk. So if we agree to go to the west, can we go to the ZBA and not do the sidewalk to the east or request that? Is that our option?
Correct. Yeah. Mr. O'Neill will, guide you through that gauntlet.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to check on that. Thank you.
And I would say quickly, it would probably be good to have a conversation with the road commission between now and the April ZBA, which is, I think, when you would be slated to go.
Okay.
Just so that way, because the question's going to come up at the ZBA, and for you to be able to explore maybe kind of what that clear distance behind the curb or the edge of the road is, so you can kind of start shaping up for them or framing up your argument for, why it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Oakland County may or may not approve it, right? I mean.
Correct.
Yeah.
They may not. They may force you to do a boardwalk, and then it gets into a bunch of eagle requirements, and it's a boardwalk that goes to a dead end at this point, and there's all
And then
kinds of
past that, the
maintenance.
topography changes a little bit, gets a little rolly and
Right,
slopey
yeah,
towards the road, so
definitely.
it's not conducive for a sidewalk.
Right, all kinds of maintenance, long-term maintenance.
Plus we have a lot of
concerns.
trees too, within there, so.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Roman.
I went out and visited the site, and I totally agree with Mr. Ruggles' comments that the sidewalk to the east does not make any sense, and neither does the boardwalk, so that's all I had.
Okay.
I agree. I went out with Mr. Roman and the boardwalk, and speaking with trustee Ruggles, would have been about 600,000.
I think it was 100,000 for every 40 feet.
For how many feet?
Every 40. which-
Every 40 feet, $100,000.
600 grand,
Wow.
so,
Yeah.
to nowhere.
Yeah, there's no, yeah, no rationalizing that in my mind's eye anyways. Okay. If it went somewhere, it's one thing, but it
Yeah,
goes absolutely
right,
nowhere. So, in this particular case. Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, Mr. O'Neill, you're looking for a final site plan approval subject to ZBA approval?
It would be preliminary site plan approval, subject to the conditions set forth by the planning commission and subject to gaining ZBA approval for the necessary
So
variances.
I'll make a motion for preliminary site plan approval, subject to ZBA approval and conditions and administrative review.
Support.
consultants, other
And
consultants.
consultants reviews.
And, well, administrative reviews.
Planning Commission pull all that
I
in.
thought it covered it as well, but our
Okay.
legal counsel wasn't.
Oh, consultants too, we'll throw those in to make them feel not left out. Okay.
That was seconded by Clerk Noble.
No.
No,
Trustee Ruggles.
Mr. Ruggles. I have a motion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Pizecki. Next item, David Heber is looking to bring forth to us some conservation of land. Preservation, I should say.
Thank you. We received an application for the Farmland Preservation Open Space Act. This is a program where property owners agree to put their property in this program for a certain amount of time. It requires the approval of Oakland Conservation District, which they did approve, of the Planning Commission, which they approved, and then ultimately the Township Board approval. It does not, it doesn't affect the taxes from a property tax standpoint. We will do the same thing we've always done on the property. It's an agreement between the property owner and the state and their state tax credits. So each one of them is a little bit unique. There's some of them are smaller sized parcels and some of them are larger. But I would recommend your approval. The applicant, Mr. Chambers, is here if you had any questions for the applicant. Otherwise,
My question to you is just for clarity for the board and for the public. This is kind of like a encumbrance on the deed, and could you explain that?
So what the applicant is requesting is put the property in the program for 90 years. It can be done in 10-year increments, but in this one, they're going in for a full 90 years, which is the maximum number of years, so that it'll stay in that state. If it's removed from that early, there's significant penalties and paybacks that are through the state. And I don't know the specifics behind how the state works that way.
And that limits the property for development.
Correct, and this is for livestock.
Right. So as we in White Lake Township are always trying to preserve property and land, this gives an incentive to the property owner to act as a conservator of the ownership, and/or if the property is inherited by family members and/or sold off, it's a permanent, I don't want to necessarily use the word encumbrance on the deed, but in a sense it is, that this property cannot be split into a bunch of different parcels and things of that nature. So as we have been trying to preserve properties, larger tracts of properties north of 59, this is consistent with the mindset that we have had here. So I just wanted to clarify that to the public out there so they understand that, because oftentimes everyone comes in here and says, wow, you're going to develop every inch of property. Well, this is exactly the opposite of where we're in an area that makes sense to preserve larger tracts of land. And the township is, I believe, from the conversations I've had, is very much a proponent of doing so when we can. So anything else you care to add?
No, unless the board has any questions, we'll look for a
Any
motion.
questions for Mr. Heber?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Ruggles?
Unless, if there's, I think Mr. Roman has a question.
No, I was going to make the motion, but go right ahead.
Okay. I move to make a motion to approve the PA 116 Farmland and Open Space Preservation application for parcel 12-07-400-019, commonly known as 3049 Steeple Hill Road, and request the assessing department to send the application to the Michigan Department of Agricultural and Rural Development for their consideration.
I will second that. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Resolution 25005, Mr. Potter is under the weather, so he's not here tonight. This is our annual West Nile virus reimbursement. As you can see, that we have an application to the state, and we will be spending about $8,000, of which 3,500, that will, 2899, excuse me, will be White Lake's contribution, and the rest of it will help us fight the West Nile and Zika viruses. Any questions or comments?
Great program. We need to support this, and we need to get, I love giving out mosquito spray every summer.
Are you making a motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 25-005 about West Nile, not to exceed $8,350.
Support.
I have motion, I have support, all in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Next item, request to approve the low voltage and audiovisual bid for Civic Center buildings. This has been, to say the least, a very arduous and educational task, and I want to commend my deputy, Tricia Pergament, for taking the bull by the horns and spending a tremendous amount of time on this to move it forward. Tricia.
Well, I was selected to work on this low voltage cabling and audiovisual equipment package for the two new buildings. It came up pretty quick, and the first thing that we needed to do was to have design work and specifications completed. So after a quick selection process, MDIS, Metro Detroit Integrated Systems, was selected to assist us with that. They're here tonight. So they worked very closely with the township, with John Holland, the fire department, Dan, in the police department, and myself, and our contractors for the buildings, electrical contractors, the security consultants, everybody involved, to get those drawings ready to go out to bid. Once that step was completing, the bids were sent out, and they were sent to 4 companies. One was BAE Networks, Motor City Electric, Challenger 2, and Metro Detroit Integrated Systems. 3 submitted bids back. And as you can see in the chart, I included that MDIS was the low bidder, while Challenger was close. They had a little bit of it was a little thin. Their quotation was lacking, but I know that they're qualified, but they didn't really fulfill the assignment totally. But they did give numbers, and they did demonstrate an understanding of the package. I believe Motor City Electric is substantially more, because I believe it's a union. They work with union labor. So from looking at this, you can see that MDIS and Challenger are in the ballpark for these buildings. But MDIS is the low bidder. They worked very well with the township, and my recommendation tonight is that we award them this package, continue working with us on this. So the numbers reflected in the chart, they had a couple of optional things in the quotation for the boardroom that I don't know that we need. They can tell you a little bit more about that. So my thought was we could do it one of 2 ways. We could approve the bid at the higher amount for those 2 options and decide if we need it. We're at a point where even if we decided we didn't want to do some of the equipment overall, or we wanted to change some of it, we could try to change it. But everybody had the same playing field, so I think we should recommend this. And then if we want to take a closer look at the audiovisual piece of it to see if we want to change for cost savings, we can do that. And they're prepared to work with us on that as well.
So sort of an à la carte.
Yeah, so there's, and not only the 2 options, if somebody takes a look at the boardroom, for example, if we want to have Ken take a look at the boardroom equipment for us and say, because he's been doing this with us for a long time, I'm just using this as an example, and he thinks that we could do some cost savings with some of the equipment, then, we can do that, and we can do change controls and dial it back. But we also have the ability, I want to look into it a little bit more, but we have our PEG fees that if we start broadcasting our board meetings on cable, we can use those PEG fees for our boardroom equipment. And we have roughly 80,000, there might be more than that, set in those PEG fees right now. They're essentially, we haven't really been able to use them because that's all you can use it for. So that's another option to cut some of the costs out of the audiovisual equipment. And I did also, just as a side note, speak with two of their references. They work very closely with Centerline, and they're very happy with them. They did a big project for them. And Redford, they're currently working on I can't remember, a very big wellness and community center there. It's a $25 million project worth approximately $634,000. They won that award, and they said they had no complaints so far as well. I did check a few of their references, and I don't know if Dan and John have anything to add to this.
I do not. We have no objection to this.
Yeah, have you both had good experience with them in their planning process?
My committee's, from the feedback I got early on, said that, everything was pretty seamless, yeah.
Yeah, so I agree. We've been working with them from the beginning, and just to have a company that already knows the ins and outs of what we're doing, and they can see any pitfalls that come forward, I think it would be great to work with them.
You don't have to re-educate anybody.
Correct, and they've been great to work with so far. They've answered any questions that we've had or anything that we've done. They've been on it.
Okay.
So I have a lot of faith in them.
And they've agreed to back out the design fee from the total cost, which was only, it was $6,700. It's not a lot, but
Still, that's
have
helpful.
agreed to back that out of the cost.
I
which-
get a bigger TV for that.
Yeah, which brings the project amount as is with options, those two options that can be backed out to $835,289.32.
Right. Well, technology is not cheap, as we know. It is a competitive bid, and I am pleased that the planning end of it went as well as it did, and the cooperation, the level of cooperation and time that you spent, not only with the two chiefs, but also in conjunction with the electrical contractors and the architectural firms and all the necessary planning that went again, that will hopefully make this as seamless as possible when the time comes. So I certainly appreciate that. Anything else you care to add?
Not really. I don't know if anyone has any questions for them.
Okay.
I
All
have
right.
questions.
Okay, at the time, I'll take questions from the board, and Liz, you had your hand up first, so.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So was this publicly posted on Building Connect or Sigma or something?
No, we
similar?
used the 4.7C request for qualification and sent it, selected the companies that bid on the project.
So it makes me uncomfortable to not publicly go out to bid for this particular project since it's over $800,000. I think that taking, publicly posting this just like we would do any other trade for the building makes a lot of sense. That makes me feel more comfortable. So how was this posted then? How did you reach anybody?
I contacting companies that were referred to me. We were under, the gun, so to speak, to get somebody in here. And I know that things have slowed since then, but that wasn't the case when we did this. So that's how we ended up there. So I don't know
within
that
your memo-
going out to bid is going to garner you a much lower cost. I mean, you can see that they're they're all in the ballpark. One is $200,000 more. So, and they're qualified. So that's up to you guys, but I feel they're qualified. They're in the range. If they were the highest bidder, then I'd say, yeah, let's go do something different, but they're not. And they work with a lot of various municipalities on their low voltage needs. So that's up to you guys, but that's
So
what I have to say about that.
I understand, I read through your memo, it was 598 pages, I'm not sure if anyone else got through it, but I got through it, and like I said, it makes me really uncomfortable that this wasn't posted. I mean, you kind of picked and choose who you called for a reference. When it was publicly posted, and it was posted on like Sigma, that's statewide, and you might get a much broader sweep of bidders. So to me, I don't really think these are very
But into what end? I mean, they're qualified, they're the low ones in the range, these are all qualified companies.
Trish, I have a lot of questions. Let me get through them. And then, so I did get through it, and it's of my opinion that it's too high. A lot of, like, their AV is marked up and their cable's marked up. I believe it seems like it's likely marked up 30 to 40%, like 10% would be normal in the industry. And then I have questions about a consultant. Who is going to monitor what they do? Who's going to monitor like conduit fittings? Who's going to monitor switches? Who's going to see what the AV equipment is right? Normally, if you use this kind of scenario, there's like a consultant or somebody that is monitoring all their work that they do when they come in.
Right, and both consultants didn't want to do the project, because I asked multiple times for McCarthy
Consultant.
Smith to.
We don't have a consultant.
Well,
We have a
I
GM.
asked for McCarthy Smith to take this on, they didn't want to.
Right, why they can't is it's not in our overall architectural package. They can if we make an amendment. So if we choose to table this, or we choose to not take this recommendation, we can work with McCarthy and Smith. I talked to Aaron Phillips, we do an amendment, and they can put this back out to public bid.
No,
It's
that's not quite what Aaron said. I spoke with him today, and he said that
spoke with
the
him as well.
proposals, if the proposals fall apart, they were properly bid, and there should probably be no need for us to get engaged. That's a quote.
Okay,
So-
so I'm not finished, thank you. So I talked to him, alls I can say is what he said to me, and if we choose to use them, we can. If we don't choose to use them, then it brings up the part of who's gonna be the consultant, who's gonna monitor this work.
And I brought that up to Rick as well, who's going to oversee them, and,
Because like, for
You know,
example, like
but
a
that's-
conduit fittings it goes behind the wall.
but who's going to
So-
monitor it if McCarthy Smith does it? Are they going to monitor
Yeah,
them?
they would monitor them
And
just
I-
like any other trade that they would be managing for us.
So the board is certainly within their rights to do whatever they like. I just want to go on record saying that I asked multiple times and I was told no by McCarthy Smith. They didn't want to do it.
Okay, so we can figure that out, even if we don't have McCarthy and Smith, that question still stands of who's going to monitor it. And then I read through the memo and things that were brought up that were offered, like, for example, MDIS is gonna check their work before they get in the building. Well, of course, that's standard in the industry. Everyone's gonna check their work to make sure things work before we get in.
They don't always do the certifications, so.
Yeah, no, all of those things that were listed in the memo are standard in this type of industry. And then I looked at MDIS's example of similar jobs and their references, and they were much less what the cost, they're.
Because they weren't all new buildings like this one is.
Okay, well, I'm just, it's something I noticed.
Yeah,
when reading
the
through
Wellness
this,
Center is
those
a
things
new
were
building, that one.
a lot less. So, I mean, I would propose to the board that we table this and think about it. It's a lot of money going out. I feel more comfortable going public, getting public bids and being transparent about them and following the procurement policy. Or I need an answer of who's, it would help if we had some thought of who's gonna monitor the work. Which we're not capable of. And Trish, you did a good job with something that was dumped on your plate that was not in your wheelhouse. This is a big thing to undertaking. So I don't want you to think that I'm questioning your work, but I have questions here, so.
As I said, it's not my decision. I'm just doing what
It's a
I was asked to do, so.
We don't have to take this recommendation, the policy. The board has authority to do something else.
I'd like to keep this moving along. There's been a tremendous amount of time. There's been a tremendous amount of commitment by MDIS for this project, and they were willing to work with us in a design capacity.
but of course they
I'm
were.
not done speaking. They were willing to work with us in the design capacity, even knowing we were going to put this out for a competitive bid. So the difficulty that we have, and we've already run into a nasty knot on this, and I don't feel like running it into it again. Now this has been
Sorry, what
bid.
did you say? I just
Now
didn't
that
hear
this has been bid, it is public information, and someone could come along and intentionally undercut it and not provide us with the level of service or quality of product that we would be getting. And then hopefully we wouldn't have another Aces Electric situation where we have somebody that bids it, gets it partially into it, and then goes, oh, we're changing and we're not going to work this out. It didn't work out real well for the township, and I don't really want to have that happen again. So I am satisfied with the process. I know there's been a tremendous amount of hours put into this to make this all come together. And the simple fact that your organization is willing to à la carte items that we may or may not need as we go through the process, that's gives us the flexibility of not being specifically locked in. So I certainly appreciate that, because there may be some things that we may go in a little different direction. We're still a little ways out. The most important thing was the fact that you delivered the plan in an extremely timely manner to help the electrical contractor get along. So, you know, based on that information, I appreciate your input. I would like any other comments from any other
But
board members.
I
at
need
this time.
answers to those questions. So is MDS able to answer them if Trish isn't able to answer them?
Are you looking for an answer to who's going to oversee them?
Right.
I think because of the way this was done, that we need to figure that out. And
We have
so-
we have an electrical inspector that will inspect the connections and things of that nature. The systems will be operational. They have a
Well,
warranty.
they will inspect that, but I think she means see them, so to speak.
They'll work
right?
in conjunction with McCarthy and Smith as far as when they need to get into building and their scheduling.
No, that's not the kind of checks and balances I'm explaining. So normally you have a general contractor or you have a consultant. For example, a school district has a consultant and not a general contractor. I'm just giving an example. That person comes in and they check the work. They check, did you use the fittings that you told me you're going to use? Did you use the wire and the Cat 6 that you told me? Did you use old wire? Did you use, that's the things that are checked on this kind of work. And the township doesn't have that. We
And
don't
is
have an IT department. We don't have a consultant that does that kind of work.
So I have a question. If McCarthy Smith bids this, are they going to do that? Because then we could ask them to do that and
Well,
just
that
be
was my
done with
understanding, talking
this.
to, right, talking to Aaron, is we have a difference of opinion whether this was a competitive bid. I don't feel comfortable that this is not our general, normal path of a competitive bid going out to the public. We used a policy. So the policy was Rick set up a committee of 3, which was you and both chiefs, and then you guys called a few companies that, I don't know how you got to these companies, references from, I don't know. And so,
EFRA, the VC3.
okay, so you got references. It's still not, to me, that's not a competitive bid process. That's not a
Well, that
public-
was not-
That's not the normal public.
Not for who they went to bid, but just for the design.
Right, so the
Yeah.
design, so once they, respectfully, a company to me said, what I'm observing is, a company said, oh, sure, I can do those designs for you. There's no competitive bid, and they might realize there's no competitive bid and say, yep, I'll go do that work for you as well.
I didn't share that with them.
Because they couldn't,
Yeah.
and
And there was a
nothing to compare
competitive
to.
bid, it wasn't on the bid. I know what you're saying, but there were 4 companies total asked to bid, 1 declined. So I know what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, why restart everything when maybe what we do is have McCarthy Smith oversee them and contract them to oversee them, not to redo the whole process.
So I don't know if that's possible without talking, to them, but it's my understanding it's okay that the numbers are published. I talked to McCarthy Smith, the numbers are published, and you would just go out to, bid. This is concerning to me that didn't go out to public bid being such a high figure.
Again, you're looking at me, it's up to you guys what you want to do. I'm not going to argue with you about it. I'm
No,
just
you
here
did-
to
you just
present.
Got it. But is MDIS, can they
I would,
Answer
I would
those
ask that
questions?
they be allowed to bid if you're going to do that. I don't want to exclude them from this process after all this.
Well, it would go out, I mean, I don't
yeah,
know, I don't know the details of that, but it would go out onto like, you know, a statewide site and everybody that would be willing to bid could bid.
So I think the rest of the board should weigh in on how they feel about it.
Any
That's-
other questions or comments? Mr. Roman?
You know, we've never built buildings before. You know what I'm saying, Liz? I don't know that there's a right or wrong way to do it. All I know is Trish has put in weeks and weeks of time to come up with this, and so thank you for all your efforts. I guess I'd like to hear from the police chief and fire chief. Were you guys impressed with MDIS? What did you like about them? What did you not like about them? And are you guys on board with using them?
So I'm super comfortable with them, as I said before. I don't, they were, any question I had or any rendition that I needed, they had it immediately. They're very knowledgeable about what they're doing. And like you said, we've never built a building before either. But I'm also, I would feel bad for them because that number is already out there.
Yep.
And if that was the agreement or whatever Trish was sent to do, and John and I were assisting in that, it becomes unfair to them to put it out. And like I said, it's up to you guys. You go with them. I trust them. I haven't even had to question anything about what they were doing. They just did it, and they knew what they were talking about. They answered every single question that I had, and they did it in a professional manner. So I'm super comfortable with
Yeah,
it.
Trish, am I mistaken? This is the same company that we've been working with. So they've put in so much time with, and to be honest with you, I have a very talented staff. So I have one individual that builds houses. So I put him on the committee with another individual who's an IT guy with my department. So they were spot on going through each room, each part of the building, and these gentlemen, their staff worked right with them. So the amount of time they've already invested with us too was certainly appreciated. There was so much effort here, and yeah, because I can tell you, my staff came back, they had no complaints. And as far as I know, we're ready to go.
Okay. Yeah, Liz, I know it's not a perfect system, but with everything I'm hearing, it would be the wrong time, in my opinion, to try to rebid.
I don't
And
think
just-
it's like
just
I
so you
like them or
know-
don't like them, or they didn't do a good job through their process. That's not my issue. My issue is just, it's a lot of money.
I know.
And I think we should have followed and they invested all this time unbeknownst to the board. You know, that was all
Yeah.
happening before
And
this
that's where
recommendation
hindsight
came to
is,
the
it's
board.
great, but we've
So-
never built buildings before. And
Right,
just
so
an
just about the
FYI,
public bid seems like the right thing to do.
just an FYI though, I remember talking to McCarthy Smith about this a long time ago, and from what I remember, they did not want to get involved in this.
Neither did
Well, I
Stu.
talked to Aaron today, that's all I can tell you, is
Yeah.
that he said he could put a proposal together if we wanted him to.
He said only if this falls apart.
Right, if we don't,
Keep in mind one more thing. Even with the numbers where they are today, we've got, we need to commit to this at some point so they can lock in, they can get cables, they can lock in pricing. So I'm just saying, whatever you decide to do is going to push that out longer, and then we have to go through that process again.
That's all.
Mr. Anderson?
I want to be sure I heard this correctly. You said that the design of all the low voltage and AV equipment, the design was done by them, correct? Okay. I don't have a problem with that.
That was under a separate.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying it was under separate, that they looked at they looked at the plans and said, this is what is needed.
No, they made the plans. They didn't
Oh,
look
they made
at
the
them.
plans.
We didn't have any plans.
No.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, not the plans for the low voltage.
Okay.
I'm talking about the building plans.
They worked with us, yes, they.
On the building
and to
plans, and
create
they
the
looked at
plans.
it from their expertise to determine what is needed to go ahead and provide the end results of what we need
Right.
for low voltage and
Yes.
AV. Okay.
Through several multiple meetings with our team.
Which is fine. So my next question is that when that all happened, were the exact same plans given to the other bidders?
Yeah,
Or
we
was
took
it-
their all of their identifying stuff off of the plans, and that's what was used, the plans and the specs that they created were used to go to the bidders.
So it was just the specs that were done?
And the drawings
And
and
the
the
drawings.
specifications.
Right. And then from that standpoint, then who determined the products? Were the products there listed?
They
or-
were told what was to go in as far as the specifications, and then if they had some, did they have some leeway with like what type of audiovisual equipment they put in?
Recommended or equal?
Yeah.
Correct?
Exactly. They were recommended in a list of several manufacturers. that
Are equal. So,
Specified like the size of the display and like
Right.
the type of brightness.
Like for the AV equipment.
All right, well, we got too many people talking here at one time.
Okay.
And you're going to need to come up here to talk only because you can't get picked up by the microphone.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're going to ask some questions, I'd like them to come
To them
forward
and-
to the
okay.
podium if you wouldn't mind, okay?
So the reason.
Yeah, make sure you state your name for the
Where are you
record.
from? Yeah, my name's Jason Hance. I work with Metro Detroit Integrated Systems.
Eric Hubers, I'm one of the owners, and for the spec, we went through the individual rooms and we specified like the size and the brightness of the displays, and then
Okay.
it was a commercial quality display, and then we
Right.
recommended like 3 or 4 manufacturers for each section. So we kind of gave the bidders the discretion to pick what products they wanted to use, but specified like that there were certain size speakers, certain size TV, and there were certain number of pairs and stuff like that.
Right, which is no different from a regular design application of when somebody else gets a bid package. So that either being an open bid plan or whoever else is coming to bid a product.
Correct.
Okay, so now, the other question that I had was notation as far as VC3, that would come, that they're going to be working with you on this?
Yep. we
Have
a
you
strong
worked with
working-
the-
Yep, for like the last, sorry to cut you off. We have a strong working relationship with VC3, and we've worked with Tom and Ken for the past 8 years.
Okay,
And we have close to 100 municipal customers. And just at the moment, like Trish mentioned, we have a bunch of new construction projects going on with similar scope. And been in business for 11 and a half years and just strictly do commercial and government projects.
okay, and one more question I asked from a financial.
Clarify one thing
What?
though,
Go ahead.
from the IT, from the VC3 aspect of things, they are, they were helping with the design in this of the IT rooms. There was no charge for that because we pay them labor through our contract. The only charge that we're gonna see out of the IT specific stuff is for the racks are in their quote for the IT rooms, but, and the fan kits and that kind of thing. But as far as, any other things that need to go into the building, we will get a quote eventually from VC3 for the equipped parts, for like the modem.
The switches, the
switches,
firewalls,
yeah.
and the servers and
So
access
that's
points.
not a part of this, that's separate, but there won't be any labor, that's just to get the switches and everything for the building.
And who's installing the switches? Are you guys going to be installing the switches or is VC3?
It's not in our bid, but we usually like just throw it in if they have the equipment on site.
I'm sorry, say that
We
again?
would install the switches, but VC3 would do all the provisioning configuration of the switches.
Okay.
So
And I noticed as far as in your Gantt chart, that you had a phase for equipment review of the orders, the procurement phase, and then which somewhat overlapped, but was not always. Help me to understand why you would have that.
kind of a hypothetical timeline depending on like the construction progress, but we usually like to receive all the equipment at our office in Royal Oak, Michigan. And then after we receive everything, we ask for a second progress payment for the equipment.
Okay.
And then before we start work, we usually request like another progress payment.
And that's the 50-50-50.
Yeah, it's something we came up with. We're aware that doesn't add to 100. It's just.
Well, but I understand the process, the 50% that's on the first phase and then second phase and whatever else that you want 50%
It's kind
of.
of something to keep us honest, and our customers like it because they can kind of spread the payments out.
Okay.
But it's something that's been successful on our larger, like $500,000 projects and up and stuff like that we've done.
Would you entertain an opportunity to discount that further in the event if more money was available to you?
Can you?
No, I'm just asking. I'm just asking. I'm in sales, so I'm just asking.
I don't understand the question.
Oh, could you?
The
give us
question
a
is that
discount for a
since he
lump
had a
sum?
50-50-50-50, He could save money by purchasing at another time, rather than, breaking out the cake. He's got to put it in, the way I understood it, he's putting it in a warehouse of storage.
Right.
But if he bought it all at one time, what could you afford us as far as a discount structure on this?
Give them everything up front.
So we usually
No,
buy
that's-
it all, like, after we receive, like, a final purchase order and the project's all signed off on. And all of our distributors are telling us stuff's going up like 20 to 30%.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, with AV equipment, everything else is going up. So I don't want you to come back to us if we
Oh, no,
so approve this, and then you come back and say, well, this went up. So what I'm looking at, the opportunity
We've
for
never done that in
you.
the history of the company, and
Okay.
I would honor the price that's bid. And we've been getting updated quotes and stuff with our distributors, just so we can keep the pricing
But
locked
that's
in.
if we set you off by paying you, right? I mean, we have to.
Yeah, if we had a,
so
if we had a
we
signed
stall,
contract and we got the
that's
first
gonna become a
25%,
problem.
we'd hold equipment and free until everything's installed and you guys are happy with the product, so.
Okay. And my last question, I'm sorry, Rick. Last question is, looking at the dollar volume of this project being, as far as what Liz saying, a large project. I'm sorry, I didn't see any other projects that were this large that you put in your.
One is 625.
Right, correct. Was 625. Well, $25 million building, in comparison to $47 million is a little bit different.
Well, I mean, the amount of the package that they're installing is 625,000. It's close to, it's 200,000 less than what we're expending on our buildings. I'm just saying it's still a large size project.
Okay, okay. Think that was it, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
Okay.
have a comment.
Yes, Andrea.
Thank you for making me read 589 pages. Thank you for putting all the work in. I will admit, I didn't read all 500, but I probably read half. I just think it makes smart sense to have them do the low voltage and the audio visual installation, because then the right hand can't say the left hand didn't do it right, and then the left hand can't say what the right hand did wrong. So it just makes sense that
MDIS.
sorry,
Yep.
MDIS, sorry, do it, all of it. So so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I had one
Mr. Anderson.
One other thing that I think we as a board should take in consideration. We've always said that we've not designed a building like this. We've never designed a building, okay? This equipment, we've never had.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we need to be sure that we have the resource of somebody that's responsible for AV that works for us, so that when he gets ready to train, that's the person he's going to train. So I don't know if we need to look forward to saying, okay, down the road, budget in 2026, that we need to have a facility AV person, or at least a facility manager that has the understanding of what AV is going to be, since we're going to move forward. And then with the idea of this, when we go PEG, which I hope we will do.
So for us, so far, I mean, and that's why I mentioned Ken earlier, he's been handling our audiovisual, we don't pay. I'm not saying he's our AV person, but he can
Good
certainly,
point, Steve.
He's gonna be operating the equipment if he's still working for us. And one of the options, or that was included, was also something which I don't know that we wanna keep as an option, but it allows us to be able to also work at the audiovisual portion of the boardroom a little simpler when we need to.
It was just an option for cloud
just an
storage for the boardroom.
No, I'm
And
talking
then a
about the
secondary
iPad.
option for using kind of like a remote control through an iPad to simplify the controls of the boardroom meeting. So you could
Okay.
have one without a specified AV person. So that was an optional alternate, I believe the second one. And then the optional alternate, the third one, was for cloud storage and management of the council meetings or any meetings that were in there. So that you can store those recorded meetings in the cloud, as well as share them and manage them as needed.
Okay.
All right,
Answer your
question.
question? Yes,
Yeah, that is.
So,
Mr. Noble.
what I'm hearing, there's a lot, now in pretend, thank you so much, Trish, I know you put hours and hours and weeks and months behind this, but we do need, like Martin McCarthy and Smith said, they can oversee it, oversee your work, which we have nobody to do that. I would
That
be-
is, excuse.
Hold on, give me a second.
You're incorrect.
Please, I'm incorrect, I'm just asking a question. we need somebody to oversee it. Is that a fact? And can we agree on that? Because we have nobody to oversee it. That's what I'm hearing tonight. So why don't we take our time, that's my opinion, and table it for now, not saying we're kicking you guys out or doing like that. And then we have a discussion with Mark McCarthy and Smith and see what the guidelines or the price is for that. That way, we're not saying that you guys won't do a great job, but we have somebody oversee it, because there's nobody on this board that can do that. Sean's inundated, Andrew can't do it, I can't do it. Steve, you might be able to, so I'm pretty smart. And then we go from there. That's just my opinion, because we do need, that's what I'm hearing, this whole conversation.
But I think there's two things going on here. Whether or not they rebid the package for us.
I'm not asking to rebid it.
and/or-
I'm just asking for oversight.
He's saying to table it to just
Oversight.
find
Just to
out.
talk to Aaron McCarthy.
find out what
Because I'm not,
entails.
I'm not disbelieving Rick, I'm not disbelieving
Ask them who usually
Liz, but I
oversees
just want to, that we're all on the same
it
page
the-
as far as
What do
oversight.
you guys want to do?
I have a question for you
That's
guys.
Mr. Roman has a question.
When you guys do your work, I mean, like, as per this bid,
Yeah.
who usually oversees you? Or is there nobody that oversees you? And if there is someone, what kind of skill set do they have?
We usually have work directly underneath the general contractor for the project. It would be a bonded project as well, and we'd pull a permit for the project. And we're doing a type of testing on the cabling called certification testing. It shows the length of the cable, that it passed a test, that doesn't have any decibel loss or interference, and we'd provide like some of the board members said, we'd provide a couple hundred pages of test results showing that every single individual fiber pair or copper run actually tests and it was up to spec. And we'd be working closely with your managed service provider, VC3, kind of make sure that the quality is up to their standards. And then we also follow the National Electric Code for different standards for size holes that you can drill and lengths of cables and things of that sort.
You got various entities.
Yeah, but it would be a bonded project. I have my house pledged that my 13-month daughter lives in and my wife in Bloomfield Township. And we're a small family company with 20 employees and 10 trucks that go out every day.
Has McCarthy Smith ever overlooked your work?
I can't answer that. I can look into that. Right now, we're working with Frank Rewold and Sons on 2 projects, a new construction library in Lyon Township, that they did a similar vote just because we had a special working knowledge of the project. They didn't put it out to bid.
Right. So when a GC oversees your work, do you know if that GC uses in-house or do they usually hire other tech experts to keep an eye on what you guys
It really
do?
depends. Like, we just worked recently with the city of Ann Arbor on a crisis control room that was like $350,000 for like multi-task force so that they could oversee the football games. We're working on a new construction library. Both of those projects had just bid directly to us and they avoided the bid process because they wanted to work with us specifically. But like that Redford project that Trish mentioned, that's like $650,000. We're working with a technology consultant out of Chicago, and they're kind of working with their CPA to make sure that we hit certain milestones. So it really depends on a need-to-need basis.
Okay, well, just a comment to the board, I mean, we could still approve this and still look for someone to oversee.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm
right?
saying.
Okay.
Like we
No, if
can,
you wanted to-
Anthony's
'cause you
saying
said
we
to
should know
table
the
it.
cost of that
I don't know that you
first.
need to table it.
No, I would like to move forward with this and not.
but that's a good point.
I'm not opposed to finding
We've
someone
got to
else.
kind of know the cost. I mean, not that we don't trust you, gentlemen, but we want somebody to oversee.
Maybe Liz has got, if you got someone else that could oversee, you're still thinking McCarthy Smith.
Well, that just makes sense to me because they're there every day overseeing every other
Yeah.
trade.
But they're,
So-
according to Aaron, they're not experts in this field.
No, but they
Yeah,
do
that's
do
what I-
it.
That's
It's
what I
not-
had remembered them saying.
So, I've made my point. I'm uncomfortable that it wasn't out to public bid.
They have to work.
The committee could have been made up of me and Steve and Trish, because Steve and I seem to know a lot about this. So that would have been helpful,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
in hindsight, you're right.
And-
In hindsight, but
But when we get so far down the pike and the board doesn't know that all this back work is happening and then it's brought to us, we get stuck with it.
Yep.
So, if the open bid process is not going to happen in the future, I'd like the board to be notified first and have that discussion first. Like, yes, we would like to put this out to bid, or no, we'd like to use this particular policy instead. I think that's a lesson learned here that, that would have
yep,
gone a lot
you make a
smoother.
good point, Liz.
So,
Okay, any other questions from the board? Like to move on with this business. I would like to make a motion to award the bid to MDIS Metro Detroit Integrated Systems in the amount of two alternating bids, one at $835,289.32 for a total of both buildings. And without the AV option,
That's with.
that was the total of eight.
That was without the AV options.
I beg your pardon?
Let me look at this. No, that's with the AV options.
Okay, so
Sorry,
I'm
go ahead.
correct.
Sorry to
Okay.
interrupt.
And without AV options 1 and 2, the price would be $797, $796.24. I make that in a formal
Can
motion.
you put in pending oversight at a future date and time once we investigate it?
I can, we can put
Because we
with,
still can talk to BC3, we can have another conversation with Aaron.
with potential oversight. I'll put that in there. That's a
And
form of a
pending the
motion.
bond and all that other
You need
stuff.
to
yeah.
add some more on your motion.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, getting it all. everything.
Yeah,
If you want me
pending
to
the
get rid of
bond
the bond,
too.
we can take
Well, there's too many people
That's why
talking.
we should table it, because there's all that to figure out first, and just bring it back next
It's all
month.
spelled out right here.
I'm not
All right,
sure.
what was your statement that I
I'm,
missed?
hold on a second.
Yeah, I'll ask.
I just said upon a mutually acceptable signed agreement reviewed by the attorney and receipt of the performance and payment bonds.
Yeah, we'll add that into the motion. Did you get that, Hannah? Thank you. Okay. That is my formal motion. Looking for support?
Well, did you add on the language on that sentence about attorney review and bonding?
Yes.
Okay, so that's in there. And then, just want to make sure you're okay with the dollar amount, Trish.
Yeah, I read those amounts off, Mike.
Yeah, he had them.
I already read them.
You had a
Right.
question.
You wanted both alternates included in the motion?
I think that if you,
It allows you to go either way.
well, I mean,
Or
you
you
could
could
just
go
do the
not to
higher
exceed.
one and then take it out if you don't want it. I mean, that's all.
And we'll do, I rescind my motion.
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed.
Just leave the lower amount out.
It'll do not to exceed,
I would say that we're going to review the options and determine if we remove them or not after.
okay, it's going to be a bid not to exceed $835,289.32 for both buildings,
Based on
based on,
all the things that they have
right, right, based on their proposal.
Proposal.
Yeah.
Based on the proposal.
I
gotta wait.
Oversight or?
Yeah, say that.
And for future, for potential oversight. Potential oversight.
Subject to
Subject to attorney review.
and bond.
And receipt of payment and performance bonds. Yep.
Okay, you got it?
And something.
Okay, all right. That's the motion. Looking for support.
I've got a discussion.
Mr. Ruggles.
Why don't you get started first?
Quick question,
She said I should get support first.
Support.
Okay. I have support from Mr. Ruggles.
so we
Thank
can
you.
talk, yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys mentioned that in 2 to 3 weeks, there's going to be price increases. So if we were to table this right now and then talk about oversight for the next month or two, would that affect this bid then by?
Our pricing, we're just being told from the manufacturers that there's so much uncertainty with the new administration that, I don't know, with all the tariffs getting like put on and pulled off, especially with a lot of the products being manufactured in like Korea, South Korea, Japan, and China, and throughout America and stuff. It's just, there's a lot of uncertainty, but we can honor the current pricing right now. We've been keeping the quotes and stuff updated. It's just, I can't say, guarantee that we could keep all the same pricing. If it gets delayed a few months, we could probably keep it for a few weeks. But I don't know how difficult the oversight fees would be. Usually a lot of companies will just use their general contracting firm or their architect, and then they'll have their superintendent and foreman get the different test results on the cabling. They'll make sure that you give them we're providing a lifetime warranty on both the cabling for the fiber and the copper as well, from Panduit, which is a company from Chicago. And then we're just simply reselling like name brand TVs that you guys have in your homes at your houses, and mounting them on the walls using commercial hardware, and then mounting ceiling speakers. So have no doubt in my mind that we can do this job and do a good job for you guys. And Jason has met with Trish probably dozens of times. We have like invaluable working knowledge of the buildings you guys are building. And I would love to be a part of the project.
I appreciate it, thank you. I just want to say that because I didn't have an issue with tabling it, but, you know, the price increases I wouldn't want to be a part of, so. I respect Liz's and Steve's comments, and I understand what you're saying. And just for the record, I thought you were the AV person around here.
Who, me?
Yeah.
It ends up that way sometimes, but I'm not.
The only thing that I.
We have a motion, we have support.
We're still having discussion though.
Discussion.
Under discussion, Mr. Anderson.
I just have a problem with one word, and that's potential, rather than actually having somebody to.
Well, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. I'm just trying to understand.
If we put out there and somebody comes along and says, yeah, we'll watch over them, it's gonna be 100 grand, okay? I think the township has the right to not make it a mandatory thing. We have the ability to make sure their systems work, because when they turn it on, if it doesn't work, they're backing it, they're warrantying it, and they're going to have technical data to state why the television or unit or whatever it is doesn't work in a particular area of the building, because they're going to be testing each and every line that's run. Their work will have to work in conjunction with anything that laps over with VC3. Therefore, VC3 will also have an interest in making sure that their equipment is installed properly. So there's already, in a sense, a watchdog in the room. To hire a consultant on the outside, I think is a little bit much for this particular case, seeing that they have to build this and put it in the standards to actually function. So I'm not going to pretend to know this industry, okay? But I do know that when you want to run a wire from point A to point B, if you get a certain metric on it and it's correct, it should work, okay? And we are going to have electrical inspectors out there to make sure that things are done appropriately. Even in the low voltage, we have low voltage inspection. So I'm not too concerned about it from that end. I don't want to lock the township in that we have to get someone.
Okay.
Am I willing to get someone? Yes.
Yeah, that's what I.
But that's why potentially.
Right. I just needed clarification why you put potential in
I
there.
put it in there because I don't want to lock, oh my God, we have to get a consultant. We now have to spend $125,000 to get Acme and Roadrunner and Coyote Electronics to watch what these guys are doing. So that's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
That was my reason. So we have
Under discussion. It's standard in this industry to have that, and they've even said it, that normally the general contractor does that. So it's not something, it's something that should have happened. That's just standard in this industry. So I want to make that point. And then I just want to reiterate to my board that, again, I'm not comfortable. I'm going to vote no, or I'd wish this to be tabled till next month so we can figure out some answers to these questions. But I'm not comfortable with such a large amount going out, because I believe that this bid is too high for this project. And it's our job, that's what our job as the board, is to watch the money, and we're fiduciary responsible. And I think there's a cost savings here that, and that's important to me, that we can save money here and use it for something else, so.
Okay. Anyone else?
And one of the statements that I made about the.
Anyone else but Mr. Anderson?
About the monies, as far as buying it in a bulk type situation, if you could come back to us and let us know.
I don't think there'd be any cost savings. We're usually just gonna buy it right now just before the prices go up and just hold it, since the prices have been consistently going up. But if there are any cost savings to take advantage of with our distributors, I'll definitely can pass those along to you guys.
I appreciate that.
So I can look into that and see if there's anything.
Thank you.
We've just been trying to keep the price the same.
Thank you.
Everything going on.
Okay. Last call. All right, you done?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You're done now. Okay, thank you. We have motion, we have support. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Voorhees.
Yes.
Trustee Anderson.
Yes.
Treasurer Roman.
Yes.
Supervisor Colwell.
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
No.
Treasurer, Gary. You had me there.
Noble.
Clerk Noble. Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Listen.
Thanks, guys.
Listen,
Everybody.
I really appreciate this, but I really appreciate you working with Trish and all the time, because I've heard all kind of things that I never thought I would hear come out of a young lady. But anyways, but she's definitely doing a great job, not a good job.
Thank
So,
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Trish.
Thank you.
Fire Department requests to purchase 2025 administrative vehicle. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Are you okay with me presenting from here, or do you want me to go to the podium?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
As long as we can hear you, we're good.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I talk pretty loud. Thank you. What you had before you is the fire department request to purchase a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo to replace the current fire chief vehicle. I did obtain 3 bids. This is a budgeted item. I did budget $60,000 for a replacement vehicle, plus or minus 60, because I really could not forecast what a new vehicle would cost back in the budget year. I am going to keep the current chief's vehicle. I'm going to reassign it to our fleet across the street. The reality is, with our staff levels, these guys have to train. And a lot of our training is off-site. And I certainly can't send them in a fire truck to go up to, up to Mount Pleasant area to gain fire inspector credit. So we do need these fleet vehicles. The bids that I obtained were from Lakeshore, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram, Zott, M59, and LaFontaine and Walled Lake. The middle-of-the-road bid was from Lakeshore. It is $816 higher than the lowest bid, but these are not apple-to-apple vehicles. The one from Lakeshore, they're offering more, which I did not find in the other bids. One being a remote starter, which is far more than $816 already installed. So based on that, that is our recommendation is to purchase from Lakeshore Chrysler.
Questions or comments from the board?
When will this vehicle be delivered?
I'm sorry, say it again?
When will this vehicle be delivered?
I'm going to order it soon once it's approved. The last time I talked to the sales rep there, as I was talking to him, he said it's pretty quick turnaround for that vehicle.
Awesome, and I'm glad you're turning it into an operational fleet vehicle instead of parking it, so thank you for doing that.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
What about the red truck? You're taking that out of service?
I'm going to keep that for a little bit longer, just because I'm finding now that guys are going to training and they're going separate ways. That truck is getting older. I believe it's a 2014. We're not going to sink a lot more money into that. I'll try to get a little bit more life out of it and then send it on its way.
So if you had to guess by the end of the year? Because we want to get the value out of it to be able to.
Yeah, I don't
know. The mileage on that's going to be, what is that, 68? On
the current Chiefs vehicle?
No, the red.
The red, I don't know. I apologize. I don't know the current mileage on that one. But the Chiefs vehicle is about 68,000 miles on it.
At 42,420 when you got it.
Yeah, well, that's pretty accurate. So, and it's getting up there. And I know I had a conversation with Treasurer Roman about it, the current Chiefs vehicle. I want to repurpose that vehicle while it's still a good vehicle too. There's no doubt in my mind, by reassigning that across the street, we'll probably get 10 more years out of that vehicle, just for the staff using it, just basically for the sole purpose of training or running errands. Yeah.
Yeah, understood. And I know you guys do a lot of training because I see that all the time, so.
Yeah, being a dual role service, when you provide emergency medical services and fire, there's so many certifications required now by the state, and they just keep growing.
Okay, so you're recommending Lakeshore, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge Ram?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments from the board?
One question. Are they going to bring you the vehicle?
I hadn't gotten that far. I didn't want to give any false hope to anybody about it, but that's what I'm going to request, that the vehicle's delivered here.
Can you go back at them and ask for that 800 to come down? Because it's, what is it, a starter on the vehicle?
It's more than a starter. It's, it's remote start, rain-sensitive wipers, heated steering wheel, heated front seats, power liftgate, wireless charging pad. That's just some of the stuff that they listed that I could not find in the other bids.
So we may be paying a little bit more upfront, but on the end, when we go to unload this vehicle, we'll get more for it. We always have with vehicles that have had more on them.
I'm okay with it. I just want the board to remember today that we're going above bid on our local dealership Zot. So that's, our procurement policy, and we talked about this, is with our local dealer. So we're gonna be 800. No, I just want, not you, chief, but the rest of the board to remember that.
Well, the dealership is owned by a local community member.
I can appreciate and understand it, but
Yeah.
we have a dealership that pays taxes within the township. And I'm okay with it, but maybe you can go back to
I understand.
for 800.
Okay, any other question or comment? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a Lakeshore, the 2025 administrative vehicle, which will be from Lakeshore Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram for $38,880. That's in the form of a motion, not to exceed, delivered to White Lake.
They'll deliver it.
I just put it in there.
They will.
Form of
Delivered,
motion?
not driven, because where is Montague, or wherever that is?
It's the Grand Rapids area.
West Side State.
Oh, west side?
Yeah, it's not
Past
easy
Walker.
drive.
Oh,
You realize if you add that to your motion and they won't deliver it for no charge.
I'll go
you'll
pick it up.
issue.
No worry. All right. So, my daughter lives in Grand Rapids. I'll go get it. Okay. That's a motion. Who's supporting? Do I get some support from Andrew Voorhees? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Voorhees.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Treasurer Roman.
Yes.
Trustee Anderson.
yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Supervisor Kowal.
Yes.
And Trustee Ruggles.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is kind of an echoing item. It's coming back to us from a couple years ago. Correct, Chief?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. So in March of 2022, you guys approved an agreement with Emergency Call Works in Oakland County in reference to our 911 provider who provides trunk lines and hardware to get our 911 system and our admin lines up to date. I think the county put the cart before the horse and didn't figure in quality control in reference to any updates or any times they had to come out for maintenance. So they had to go back to the drawing board. So Oakland County requested that no one pay the invoice that we had originally in 2022 until Oakland County and ECW worked out the extras that weren't originally in the plan. So they finally, a couple years later, they worked it out, and they sent us an invoice requesting that if it's needs to go in front of the board, to put it in front of the board because it's more money. We've been provided this service. They've had continuity in service for the years that we've had the program. It's just that Oakland County and ECW had to work out a pricing fix that all the departments were to pay. So the amount that they settled on was $34,530.72. That's up about $7,000 from the previous request.
Increase.
Yes.
Yeah. Questions, comments from the board? We need it, need to have it.
Absolutely.
Anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Roman?
Motion to approve the ECW fee of $34,530.72.
I'll support that. Roll call vote?
Supervisor Kowal.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles.
Yes.
Clerk Noble. Treasurer Roman.
Yes.
Trustee Anderson.
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief. Good luck with that one. Next item, a resolution 2506 approving the Stanley Park Phase 2 Land and Water Conservation Grant application. Before we get into that, I know that there was a lot of thought that went into this, and we did a lot of reverse engineering on it, trying to make it all work. So I want to thank everybody up front, all the board members and everyone, and the Parks Committee that we had put together with Trustee Smith and Mr. Powell in the past, because it was all part of that plan. So, Certainly appreciate everybody's efforts.
Can I have Andrew
Mr.
give the-
O'Neill.
Thank you. I'm going to have Andrew give the summary, and then I want to make a quick comment at the end regarding just the resolution and kind of where we're at.
All right, thank you. So tonight, we're considering a resolution to submit a land and water conservation fund application for Phase 2 of Stanley Park, which is page 730 in your packet. Staff has been working closely with Beckett and Rader, assembling all the required documents for the grant, and which we've been uploading onto the MI Grants website. But of particular note, we've received many letters of support, including letters from Congresswoman Haley Stevens, State Senator Jim Ronstadt, Amy O'Leary, the Executive Director of SEMCOG, and Oakland County Commissioner Christine Long. As the supervisor just pointed out, the Parks and Recreation Committee has devoted a lot of time developing the vision and scope of this grant application, and last night it held a public hearing and ultimately recommended that the Township Board approve Resolution number 25-006 for moving forward with the grant application. As I'm sure you're all aware, Township Board resolution in support of this grant application is required by the state, and the resolution was prepared using the state's Land and Water Conservation Fund application guidebook. So, assuming that you decide to move forward tonight, Township staff and Beckett and Rader will finalize work on the grant application, which is very close to being done, and we will submit it to the state by the April 1st deadline. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to add that we had a pretty lengthy discussion 4 weeks ago when we were in here, and I know this is sort of a I don't want to say, it's been a kind of a truncated process. I mean, we decided in January we were going to pursue this. We talked about it last month, and, here we are. One thing that came up and we discussed quite a bit was the multi-use sports courts, and I think everyone here felt that it was an important feature at the staff.
We made a motion to include it.
Correct, and it is, the staff feels that it's important as well. And I want to mention that, that specific language is not part of the resolution you have in front of you. It could be added if you wish. When it was approved last month, the language that was used was less certain. It was like as an add-on, as something to be held in reserve. What was handed out today was a budget that was arrived at from Beckett and Rader and from McCarthy and Smith, getting us to $1 million without those sports courts. Question we really have is, do you want to move ahead with the sports courts separate from this resolution, which would allow the flexibility of the township to possibly not make that improvement or not make it in the fashion that's been proposed as a part of the grant, or do you want to add it to the grant? The pros and cons of that are that if it goes into the grant, it must be built. We talked a little bit about that last month. If you say you're going to build 5 of something and you decide you can only afford to build 3, you can do that, but you can't build 0. So if we say as a part of the grant that we're going to build any one of these things that we're singularly building, we have to do it, whether it's a shelter, the bathroom building, a sports court. So we were not comfortable putting you over $1 million without talking about that first. And so, certainly we had also talked about the fact that we would likely go over $1 million if we were going to do all the things we proposed and add the sports courts. So that's really the discussion tonight. Do we add that particular piece and put all these together with the likelihood that we'll go, beyond the $1 million? And according to our consultants, they feel that we'll be, at least $250,000, maybe $100,000 more if we use this exact budget and the plan that we're using. Or do we, keep it separate? Obviously, all these components can be massaged. Things can be changed, things can be reduced, you can choose a different quality. You know, this is not set in stone. This is their best estimate, and we haven't done design yet, we haven't done the bid yet. But either way, we intend to do a design and bid out these multi-use sports courts. The big question is, do we add those few words to this resolution or not? And
I've got a question.
yes, sir.
Has anybody in here ever seen a $735,900 bathroom?
No.
No.
And I hope nobody ever has, and I never will.
It's a fine-looking bathroom, I'll tell
I
you.
swear to
A
God,
solid
this is-
gold bathroom.
Right.
Don't hand out insanity like this, I swear to God. I mean,
Well, they base
This
it
is-
on some information.
they can base it on whatever they want. This will never happen. I'll never vote for this. There's no way. And with all due respect to anybody involved, I said it here, I said it at the planning commission, this is just crazy talk, so. There is no way that I would
Sorry.
vote for this resolution without the, and you can call the court whatever you want to call it, but for my support, and these numbers have to change. You know, if these numbers were anywhere near and included in anything on this, I would vote no, because there's no way I could sit here and say, yeah, I'm going to do this to anybody in this town. So that's my comment.
So something that I would like to point out in response to that is, and I completely understand how these numbers seem high, but so what we handed you, these line items are combining the hard costs and soft costs. I just want to make that clear, because before we were looking at a budget that separated hard costs and soft costs, so.
Right, so now they're even higher. These numbers are even higher than before.
I mean,
They couldn't get much higher.
So let me just understand, and I concur with Scott on, they gave us a proposal for this restroom building and utilities. What were the guidelines that went in to say this is what it needs to look like, this is how the performance is and everything else? Because we don't have a design.
Yeah,
You can't put up anything to show what this building looks like. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
It's-
Oh, we
it's-
can?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not a proposal. This is, what this is what it says is a grant application budget. And so that number, which I agree is very high, it also does include utilities. Water and sewer will have to be brought to this building. But even then, it's still a high number when you're talking about a masonry building that just has some bathrooms in it. It's not the Taj Mahal. So I think we're all in agreement that this is a high number. But the people who are experts, both at McCarthy and Smith and Beckett and Rader, are saying this is the number that we should be using. And so they're our experts. They know better than our staff does, kind of what the industry standard is. Now, that doesn't mean that this is what we're going to pay. They're saying this is what we should allocate and expect, you know, for this cost. So I think that we talked a little bit last month about sort of reverse engineering this a little bit. You know, we're not just saying we want all these things, tell us what it costs. We're saying we have this amount of money to spend. How do we get there and still provide all of these, you know, improvements? I think that if you told the average citizen that a building with bathrooms, a small concession area, and a garage in it was $735,000, that costs more than 90% of the houses cost in this township, and this is a really nice place to live. So, you know, I know, again, it includes utilities, so there's gonna be a grinder station, there's gonna be water, there's gonna be sewer and water connection fees. But even so, I'm not comfortable saying that this is what it's going to cost, but this is what we're being told by the people who do this every day. And so this is where we're starting. But just to be clear, the process.
You haven't told us exactly what they're telling us. We haven't spec'd out a building. We haven't told them how big. We haven't told them how many bathrooms. We haven't told them what material. We haven't told them what, when, how, why. So, you know, the numbers are basically just nothing to me.
I think from our conversations, they were pulling from other projects that were like, and they were trying to use a square footage amount, and I think the number we were using was 1,500 square feet. Well, that number can be reduced. We can still do all the things that we're talking about in that building and cut hundreds of square feet out of that building and still provide bathrooms and a concession area and storage. We can do all of those things.
When you say like, I think he's comping a top-end building, and we haven't said that we want that. You know, so
I do feel, it's just my gut, and I think you all agree, that if we go out to bid, we do a design and we go out to bid, we can do better than these numbers.
Absolutely.
So that's where we get back to saying, okay, well, if they're telling us, because again, we had a conversation about these pickleball courts. That's specifically what we're really trying to achieve here is pickleball courts. And they're saying it's going to cost $300,000 for 2 pickleball courts. Again, that seems like a big number. But perhaps we can do better there too. And so I think if we're all on the same page with being flexible and you know, trying to put our thinking caps on when the time comes, we could probably do all of these things, you know. We're trying to build something that is appropriate for White Lake, not, you know, Rodeo Drive here. I mean, that would be out of place. It would be not well accepted by the board or the public. So we're really comfortable putting it in and adding that language, but we feel like we can't do that without saying to you, this is what our experts are telling us, and it doesn't even include those additional items. So if we do build it in, and we do want to move ahead with it, and I think the public would really like to have that, and we go $200,000, $300,000 over that $1 million budget, we quit getting the cost sharing at $1 million. It quits being split with the state at $1 million. So if it comes back at 1.2 or 1.3 million, we're not just paying 500,000 of the first $1 million, we're paying every dollar beyond that. And so as long as everyone is okay with that, we're fine with it too.
I got a question.
Yes,
You
sir.
use the word experts. These are not expert numbers. These are ridiculous numbers. We are focused right now on a building that we have $48 million that we're trying to get through. So I'm a hard no on all this because these are not
So
experts.
we have- it's a different line item.
One second. I listened to my colleague over here, and it wasn't meant to be mean towards Beckenrader, Brian here, but this is a second go-around with these people. And it's just unacceptable. I mean, I'm looking at grills for picnic table, 15,000, a grill for 10. I mean, can you imagine the average person out there looking at these numbers?
That's for 5 picnic tables and for 6 picnic tables and 5 grills.
And we have 3 state parks, or, you know, major parks in this community, gigantic parks.
That's over $2,000 a table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting it.
I know, and I'm not taking it that way. All I'm saying is they are our experts. They're the ones we've hired to design and build our buildings. And all the things they've said about our buildings down the street have been pretty accurate. Like when they gave us our estimates, they were pretty accurate. I'm not saying, I agree with you. I agree that this is high. But to Steve's point a minute ago, we haven't given them specs yet. They're just plucking a standard, like Scott, you just said, and we don't know what standard they're using. So I do regard them as experts. This is something that they specialize in, and we retain their services, you know, and are happy with what they've done. I think this is their best estimate. This is a guess.
If this was private industry, these experts would not even be able to walk through the door. They would be thrown out. This is government. They know we're going to pay. And these are just discouraging numbers to me.
I think they're high too.
I mean, if
Yeah.
they-
And
if
it
they
doesn't make
would've-
smart business.
Well, if they would have provided, you know, okay, so $735,900. And these are examples of what we think would be at a footprint of 1,500 square feet. Did they do that? Or did they just, they didn't provide any pictures or anything else? Says, all we told them we have 1,500 square feet? And they're supposed to design a restroom building and utilities?
So Beckett, Rader, McCarthy, and Smith pulled their collective experiences and knowledge together to simply say, we're taking off the shelf an industry standard restroom building with utilities, and this is a per square footage number that is within a range, and this is a number of square feet that you've said, and I think the number was 1,500, that you want to build. So it is far from a quote. It is just an estimate at this point.
Yes, Lisa.
Just a couple of questions for you. What is the harm in using these numbers, is my question. So first of all, are you stuck with these numbers with the state? And my second question is, will the state look at these numbers and say that's,
How much?
no way are we going to fund half of that? So those are the two
Yeah.
questions, because
So-
I think we're talking about what the township board wants, but you're just looking to apply for the grant, and you have to give them information.
The state doesn't really care at this point what our numbers are. They'd like to know what we're looking at doing and get a rough estimate, but they're not worried about this until we go out to bid and we supply them with all this. Where I think it's important for the board is they want to do something beyond what was in this initial scope and what we initially talked about, which was added to the list of things they want to see happen at the last meeting, which are these pickleball courts. And so I think why it's important is because if we actually knew what it would cost and we knew we could get everything we wanted for $1 million, we would just not even think twice about it. So we're trying to kind of rationalize with what they're telling us it costs, what our mind tells us it should cost, based on all of us living our lives and circulating the earth and buying things for a lot less at a unit price than what's being shown here. And then there's that question that I mentioned early on about, do you roll something else in when you are pretty sure, or your experts are telling you you're gonna go over that $1 million cap? Do you run the risk of doing that and being forced to do all those things, or do you try to separate something? Maybe it's not the pickleball courts, maybe it's something else that you separate off and you don't ask for, so you have the ability to you're not required to put it in as a part of the grant, because you either do everything you say or you don't get any of the money. You either have to put everything in that you say you're going to, not unit-wise, but if you're gonna put a shelter in at the lake, you have to put that in. You can't put 0. You can't go from 1 to 0. You can go from 3 to 2, but you can't not do it.
Lisa,
And so
the purpose of these numbers here tonight are to exclude pickleball. I'm serious.
He's not kidding.
That's what it's for.
So the way I understand it is that you have to provide the state a budget for the $1 million. Yep. But I also understand that you're not going to be able to do all of this and pickleball courts for your share. So you're going to essentially pay for anything more than that.
No, because these numbers are not correct.
we don't know until we bid it out.
You actually believe this? You actually believe that this township board is gonna construct a bathroom building for $735,000? Well, good luck to you, because I won't be here for it.
I have a couple things to say.
I did the 1,500. This is $490.60 a square foot.
That's it?
So I have a couple comments. Are you done, Steve, or do you have more?
No, I'm fine. When you threw the number out, I just wanted to break it down for the board so we'd know exactly what it looked like.
So the first thing that we need to attack here in all of this is to correct the resolution. The intent of this board, the unanimous vote and the majority intent of this board was to include multi-use courts, which were not included in the resolution. So we first need to amend the resolution. Then I did some homework on a neighboring community that has a bathroom and an amphitheater and a park. And it's 25 by 20, and it was $250,000. It had
Do you know how long ago, Liz?
9 years
And that
ago.
was Milford.
Yeah, it's Milford.
And that was donated by the LaFontaine family.
So they have one women's bathroom with 4 stalls, one men's bathrooms with 1 stall, 2 urinals, and 2 separate family bathrooms that are about 7 by 7.5 with change tables. Each men's and women's bathroom is 26 by 7. So the building's like 500 square feet, a third of what we want to build. And they have all those bathrooms in it, plus a mechanical room and a roof overhang. So I don't think we need such a large building to begin with. And second of all, this, that's more than adequate for a bathroom for our park, since we're not even in town, it's not they have much more use, I guess, is what I'm saying. So, these numbers are way too high, and then I want to address, I'm in agreement with everyone that they're too high, and then I want to address, the multi-use court. So if we can't get to a pickleball court, and we've used the language purposely, multi-use court, worst case scenario, very worst case scenario, maybe it's a volleyball net up, maybe it's still a half-court basketball, maybe it's some kind of recreation in this park that our residents want and deserve, and then we find a way to build pickleball court afterwards. But if we don't try, we have so much plans and money going out the door that, to me, this is our only chance to put in recreation in this park for years to come. So I would like to see us at least try to get in recreation right now while we have matching funds and we're able to do it. The cost of everything we're doing in the Civic Center is only gonna go up. This cost is only gonna go up if we don't do it now. And I think that these can be rearranged into more reasonable costs, and like the bathroom can come way down and be scaled back, and then we can add recreation in instead. That's what I'd like to see happen.
Mr. Roman.
Tariffs aside. No, so the one thing that everyone agreed on is we need bathrooms down there.
Flushable bathroom.
Flushable bathrooms. So my thought is leave the bathrooms in on the resolution. And we have to do them because it's on the resolution. And then maybe, can you use a general term and just say, and other? Or can you just have bathrooms on the resolution? Because that way we're not locked into a lakeside pavilion or picnic pods. We could still do them, but we're not locked into them.
Well, I could chime in if I may.
Yeah.
I was, in preparation today, for today, I also listened to the last township board meeting when Brian Barrick was here from Beckett and Rader, and he emphasized that we have to be fairly specific. Right, because we were going back and forth with like sport court or, so just saying other isn't, it certainly isn't specific enough.
Okay, so my thought would be to change the resolution to bathroom, picnic facilities, building, and some kind of a sports court. Now, that said, in speaking with Aaron Phillips today, he mentioned that a pickleball court or a basketball court could not go down near the water because of the low-lying land. It would have to, in fact, he said, really the place for it to go would be where that existing facility is that's falling apart. That would be the place to put courts.
You can move them around later, it doesn't matter.
What's that?
You can pick out the spot later, as long as it's in the park.
Yeah, but I just wanted you guys to know that it would need to go up. I guess that would be what, to the east side of?
East, yeah.
East side of the park. But, I mean, the board wanted the court option, and it seems to me like the pavilion and the picnic pods, the picnic pod price was crazy. Wasn't that like $40,000? I mean, my God, we could pour our own concrete. Heck,
So
I'll get out there and
We
pour
will,
the
Mike.
concrete for.
Not hard.
I think there's four, we're gonna do this à la carte, this is not gonna be realistic.
This is.
Yeah, I mean, and
the
so
supervisor
Lisa's point is the
has done a lot
numbers
of this
on here,
stuff, right?
they don't really matter.
Yep, I agree.
It's not the numbers, it's the project.
Yep.
I like you, I'm not approving $735,000 for bathrooms, and then engineering's another 15%.
It's a conversation for another day. Let's get the scope.
we
Let's
need to
get
get
the
scope.
money, and then we'll figure this out.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I agree.
Nice job. Nice job, Mr. Eccles.
Right, so, like, our first order of the business is to change the to amend the resolution.
Well, here's the thing. I think if we,
The resolution doesn't include sports courts right now.
no, it does not.
Right.
We could essentially put that in there, but we don't have any real necessarily budget number, and Scott and I are in total agreement. I mean, I think the numbers are very wild there. So as far as it being qualifying for the bid, for the grant, I just want to make sure that we have what we need to have in there. We're closing in on April 1 quickly. We need to find a way to put this in there. And I think if the board comes to realization and say, hey, look, if it goes to $1.2 million, we'll make it work, okay?
But we gotta have the money.
Yep.
This is 2 years
Sean
out.
will.
And
Sean
Parks
And
and Rec
we might be underwater with the way things are going. I
Not-
don't wanna risk it.
I'm confident Parks and Rec has the funds for this.
Yes.
They've got
We've
money.
already
We have
got-
money.
I think there's 1.5 million
Yep, I agree.
currently in the savings account, and that was where 500,000
But
was gonna
speaking
be
with
earmarked from.
Elaine, we've still gotta maintain these other parts, and as time goes on, as you know, that millage keeps dropping, so that's my concern, speaking with our accountant.
Sure.
So it's
Yeah.
pretty simple math. If we don't have it, we don't have it. And we still have to maintain those parks.
We do have it, and we will.
That's not what she's telling me.
We will be.
She is not telling me that.
Then she's telling me a different story.
Well, then we'll meet her tomorrow morning and talk to her.
The one thing,
Township is growing.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
As our township is growing, how can we go under? We have at this point, we're a
Because we
8-year
have a
millage.
millage, and the millage is, it's restoring
Yeah, I
the
mean, we can't
capture,
stop not
and then
progressing,
it's-
Anthony,
I don't
because we have a
disagree,
civic
but the
center going
money's the
down.
money, and if it's not there, it's not there. So we're
It will
gonna,
be.
every year, that money's gonna dissipate, because that's how the millage works.
I agree.
It comes off like ice, just picture ice being chopped,
So
and that's my concern about it.
one of the things, and I think Liz made the comment, we say multi-sport, multi-use sports court, and if we find out that it's not 1.2 million when the dust settles on this, it's 1.5, we could still do something else that's different from pickleball and still address that issue.
We'll offer some
And-
kind of
and so
recreational court.
We've left ourselves some wiggle room with that, and it's not like we're trying to be deceptive. We just don't know what this is going to cost. This is a 2027 construction project. It's not a 2025 construction project, and we all know the way prices go. So if you want to add the multi-use sports court, I think the fallback position on that is it's not a $300,000 or $350,000 pickleball court. It could be a half court of basketball. It could be a sand volleyball court. It could be both of them at, a fraction of the cost, and we've still succeeded in providing a multi-use sports opportunity, and
We still gave our residents something.
that's right.
That's
Which-
why we picked that term, to
Right.
give us flexibility. That was the point of the term.
Correct. I know the goal was pickleball because there's a high demand for it, but if we can't, or if we fall short, or we can only do one pickleball court and we have to do something else, I mean, we
Well, all of
have,
this was discussed last month. I guess that's why I was so surprised to see that it wasn't included in the resolution. The intent of the board, to me, was clear
Yeah.
last month, that
The-
we used that term on purpose to achieve something for our residents, some kind of recreation there.
yeah.
And
The
I
language,
just want to say one thing, Sean. I'm going to go back to trustee Ruggles' very first statement when we came up with this. With the new administration, a lot of these grants may not, more than likely, not be issued.
it's possible.
I mean, that's just a fact.
and
I'm glad we're trying, but that, we can run into that too.
And I had a discussion with a board member today where it's like, well, once we get this thing out the door after tonight, we need a plan B, which is that we were earmarking $500,000 to do something in the park to make it more usable by the residents. If we find out in December we don't get this, in December, I don't think we should start thinking about, well, now what do we do? I think we should have, through
I'm
parks.
said board member.
I didn't want to out you, but yeah, we had a nice conversation about
We
that.
should think about in the future a plan B in case we don't get the grant. What can we do there?
Well, it's continued growth and continued planning.
And we could still spend the $500,000 doing some of these things to provide
Just on a lower
better use of
scale.
the, right.
Yep.
I have a thought process here. I mean, to Liz's point, and a combination of different things here. If we were to look at our current grant application and we were to take our restroom building with utilities and we'll reduce it to $600,000 and dedicate $135,900 towards a sports court, and just leave it defined as a sports court.
Right.
Okay? I believe we can pull this off, okay? And I think that will meet the criteria of the state, and it will meet the intent of this board, because this board wanted to have some kind of sports court, preferably pickleball courts. So if we put that in there, then we are going to have a target of $600,000, and we'll design a $600,000 less building, if you know what I'm talking about. And then this way, the numbers all still work with the grant, and we have something that's all played out. And if it's a little bit more, the board has the ability to come back and say, look, okay, it's going to cost, I'm just going to pull an abstract number, $110,000 more than what this is to do what it is we need to do. I believe that we have the authority and we have the foresight to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We'll approve that additional expenditure from the Park and Rec Fund and move forward.
And I'm happy to
That's it.
direct Beckett and Rader to adjust the budget.
That's it.
In
Yeah.
that way, or whatever way you guys decide tonight.
That would be my recommendation, because I firmly believe that the number is a little bit on the padded side. And I believe if we have carve out 135.9 for sports courts, I believe we can make our objective.
I would agree with you, Rick, except you need to take Lakeside Pavilion out of the resolution and picnic pods out of the resolution and put in a multi-use sports court.
So I would just say that the more amenities we put in that are part of our plan,
You get points.
the more the points. That lakeside shelter, whatever value we decide to put on it, and maybe it's not 75,000, maybe it's half that, providing that amenity creates access to the water, and so that it was, I think, recommended by the Parks Committee and staff and Beckett Rader, because we've got a balance of checking certain boxes, bathrooms, accessibility to the lake, picnicking facilities.
As long as the board realizes if it's in the resolution, you got to do it, and that's money that's going to come out of the courts.
Right, with the exception that we don't necessarily need to do the quantities that are there. So we have the ability to adjust those quantities.
I would at least take out the picnic pods.
I would agree to take out the picnic pods.
At
That's
least the
something
picnic
that,
pods.
That is a big point winner.
Yep, it is.
So there's 4 picnic pods in.
If we leave them, we can only do one.
We could reduce the number and still get, we could still get points. And again, if we say we're going to do 4 and it comes back and we decide to do 2, we're allowed to do that.
It's not really
Correct.
Let me
unless it's the access
just a
walk
second.
lines and
Hold
the
on.
table together.
Hold on. Is the term picnic pods is the thing that gets us points, or you can't just say, like, over here, you got picnic tables. So picnic pods means something different from picnic
It's an
tables.
excellent question, because we previously looked at a budget that was more generic, and it just said picnic pod, and it gave a bigger price. It's a concrete pad, it's got a grill built into the ground, and it's got an accessible picnic table that's,
So
durable material, and that constitutes a picnic pod. So what you see here are the unit prices sort of broken out for the thing. So part of the concrete walkway price, part of the picnic table price, part of the grill price goes into each picnic pod. So you
Okay,
come
so
up
the
with
the grill is part of the picnic pod.
Yeah, so the 4 picnic
So it's not
pods,
separate grills set aside.
Right.
This is part of this.
the 4 picnic pods and the lake shelter each have a grill. That's how we get to 5.
Not every picnic table gets a grill.
Every picnic table doesn't get a grill.
This is
I
some
think
complicated math
the
here.
lakefront pavilion would have
right.
2 picnic tables in it with 1 grill. So somebody's gonna have to bring sandwiches.
I would like to see a $10,000 grill and how it cooks.
Again,
That's for 5.
I think you guys,
Charcoal.
I think we could kick this horse around all day. Adjust the numbers.
Yep.
Okay, yes, look at the crowd out there. They're all nodding their heads. Adjust the numbers for the application, and we will design accordingly, okay? And it kind of goes back to what we sort of talked about before. Looking at the numbers is kind of, I think, I don't want to say misleading, but I don't think it's a picture out of focus. And I think if we just adjust the numbers and reduce the restroom building to 600,000, put the 135 towards sports court, I think we're going to be okay.
And that's fine, and if we decide to make the building 550 and take 50,000 and
Yeah,
put it
we
into the
could make it
sports courts
smaller. I
too,
mean-
we can still do that.
okay, so that was gonna be my question. If we reduce the restroom even less than that,
Yep.
that's okay. We
Yes.
can still move around the money, move around the numbers, as long as we accomplish the items.
We're just giving a ballpark because, just to get to a number so we can share that with them, and then having kind of like the list of what we're gonna do.
So if we get just arbitrarily, so if we get the 550 on the building, we're another 50 grand ahead of the game, and that money can roll over to the sports courts.
You
Are we
heard
putting
that,
sports
everybody?
courts in the resolution? No.
I think we need to put sports
Yeah,
courts.
actually, we'd add the
Put it in.
multi-use
Yeah.
sports court, and if you guys are good with that, and then push ahead knowing
Yeah.
we can twist the budget
Yes.
to get.
Yes, yes. We want that in there, don't we?
Yes.
That's what we wanted, okay?
So a motion would be as amended.
Amend the resolution.
No, it would just be approve the resolution as amended.
It's amended away.
As
With
amended.
the sports court, added
And
the
to
sports
include the
court.
sports court.
And then Brian will take and adjust the numbers accordingly based on our conversation. Correct, Sean?
Yes, actually, he's waiting to hear from us tomorrow.
Okay.
Andrew will communicate first thing tomorrow to him to make the changes as you've
So who wants to
specified.
make a motion?
I'll make it. But, so make a motion to approve Stanley Park Phase 2 Land and Water Conservation Fund Grant application with resolution number 25-006.
As amended.
As amended, yep.
As amended with the addition of the sports court.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, I'll support that, Andrew.
And to amend the grant budget.
Yeah.
I have if I may, can we say multi-use sport?
Yes,
sport
multi-use
courts
sports court. That's fine.
instead of just sport courts?
Yeah, that's kind of ambiguous.
Yeah.
Motion, support, roll call vote.
Trustee Anderson.
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees.
Yes.
Treasurer Roman.
Yes.
Supervisor Kowa.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles.
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. First reading, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the Charter Township of White Lake by amending Article 5.0 Site Standards. Mr. O'Neill, I know this is kind of a housekeeping thing.
It really is, and we don't generally send such a small batch of ordinance amendments through, but we've actually heard from several different landowners who, as I mentioned in the memo, that are really interested in building larger pole barns. It's a height issue more than a square footage issue. The current wall height maximum is 14 feet. This proposes to increase that by 2 feet up to 16. And the current roof height measured at the midpoint is 18 feet. This proposes to bring that up to 20 feet. This is great with farmers, and I know one. This is
Very
great
practical.
with equestrians who want to ride horses indoors. And one was at the ZBA getting a variance for height to achieve that. And we also felt it was only appropriate to allow these larger buildings on suburban farm and ag zone properties that are at least 2 acres in size. So these giant buildings aren't right on top of someone on a smaller lot. And then if you are familiar with the caveat in the zoning ordinance that allows an accessory building in a rear yard to be tucked 5 feet from a side yard and 5 feet from a rear yard, we simply double that to 10 and 10, rather than having to meet the standard setbacks for those districts, which is much larger. But it creates a little bit of room. I don't know how you would build a building that large on that many, on that much acreage and want to or need to tuck it into the corner. So we just have them kind of, the requirement kind of bumping it out. So that's what's included in the amendment to section 5.7. It was at the Planning Commission, very little discussion. They recommended approval to you, and Mr. Ruggles could probably share more about that if he wished to, but it's very straightforward, and this is for first reading.
I'll make a motion to move to second reading the amendment to Article 5.0 Site Standards.
Support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 25004, approving fee schedule revision 2025-1 community development. Back to you, Mr. O'Neill.
Well, the clerk's name is on this, so I don't
see
know if you
that.
would like to present this.
I'm going to turn it over to you since he made the change.
Are you sure?
Feel free.
Okay, well, before you have a package of amendments to our current fee schedule for both planning and building. As time goes on and as the consultants we work with increase their fees, we must adjust. One of the things that's changed significantly, and I think very appropriately, was the increase in the per diem that you pay to the ZBA and Planning Commission members. That was not reflected in the price we'd been charging for many years. So really, we've been just kind of catching up. We've been charging people what it costs to do reviews, but we end up having to go back to them and have them replenish their escrow accounts more often. So this just sort of right sizes everything, and there's less back and forth in traffic with deposits, and Hannah's got to chase fewer people around for money. On the building side of things, again, it's same thing, just sort of getting the costs in line, the fees in line with our costs. One thing that was odd is we do yearly registrations that have always been, $15 or $20. There used to be a state law saying that plumbing contractors' registration fees could only be $1. and that's recently been changed, so we're putting them on par with everything else. So when a contractor comes in and wants to renew their registration annually, someone has to go over the form with them, input the form, process everything, and that's basically what the fee covers. So just various odds and ends. I appreciate the work of the clerk's office in putting all this together. Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and thank you to your deputy, who I know assisted you with this as well. These have been kind of in the works for a few months now. I know Hannah has been working on it as well. I want to acknowledge her work. And again, we submit this for your consideration.
Catching up to date.
That's it. More housekeeping. Mr. Roman.
Motion to approve the fee schedule update under Resolution 25-004.
I have a motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mr. Noble. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
This is our annual agreements that we have with our 2025 road gravel program. Our contribution for this will be $56,779, which is in our general fund and is within the budget and was budgeted for. With that, I'd like to make, if there's no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve the board project number 58152.
Support.
I have motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Next item, to keep our people from choking in their summer days, it is the resolution 25007 to approve 2025 dust control program with Oakland County. This is a few more dollars, but it is $71,169.60. And this is for 5 applications. We have found that it's important in White Lake to have 5 applications throughout the summer. Questions or comments?
I'd just like to make a,
I just have a comment. I would love to see some different options for this for the county. I know there's not, but one of the residents last year was not too happy because it was pooling by her house.
Yeah, well,
Is there anything that the county
Nope.
can do? They just have to let it go
Nope.
right into the headwaters of the Huron River?
yes, ma'am, until they come up with an alternate solution. Okay?
No, but I mean, but like, there's not anything the county can do to like spread it
No.
out or anything?
They,
Okay.
they spray it with an automated machine behind it, and.
I haven't seen it lately,
if
okay.
It hits the ground and goes where, you gotta realize it's 99% water.
Yeah.
And just a small percentage of chloride. So the water will pond and pool, especially when you get on
Yeah.
these clay roads in the
Well, because their
summertime.
concern is, because like I said, we're the headwaters of the Huron River.
I understand the sensitivity of it, and then I got other people that have asthma and every other thing and want.
plus it's pothole season.
Yes, well, that's now anyways. Okay, any other question or comment?
I would like to make a resolution to pass 25-007 to approve the 2025 dust control program with Oakland County Road Commission.
Not to exceed
Not to exceed
71.
71,169.
169. 60. That's a motion, support? Support from Mr. Anderson, all in favor? Aye. Ayes have it, okay. For those of you who may not know out there, because I'm sure all the board members know, our HR person is retiring. Our director is retiring. So in putting together a job description for a position that will not be a director's position, but they'll work under the supervisor's department and under the deputy supervisor as a human resources generalist. The job description is before you. The salary is also before you. Consulted with Brandon Fournier, and he said this salary range is commensurate with this position and should be expected to attract a qualified candidate. Any questions or comments?
This person has big shoes to fill.
Seeing none, I'd like a motion. Mr. Roman?
Motion to create the Human Resources Generalist position.
And approve the...
And approve the pay scale.
Support.
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay. Trustee comments. Let me get my magic coin out here. Flip it. Andrea Voorhees.
Thank you. Women's March is, I'm sure everyone in this room is excited that this is Women's History Month. So I have to talk women's history of White Lake Township. Bonnie Elliott, our first supervisor. Olive Ballinger, Margaret Beatty, Eva Monroe, Naomi Wolf, and Beverly Sporer were some of our prior treasurers. Bonnie Elliott, Carol Burkhart, Joe Spencer, previous clerks. A trustee position, which started back in 1953, consists of these females: Jane Eccles, Jane Mayer, Donna Huntoon, Kathy Morganhall, Carol Burkhart, Beverly Sporer, myself, and Liz Smith. All I'm going to say is we need more women to bring on this list next time I do it. Condolences to the police department on the death of the former Chief Stevens. He was our chief from 1987 to 2010. He also, in this latter part of his years, he supported Meals on Wheels, delivering them to about 2 years ago. Very great supporter of White Lake. I always loved seeing him at the police open house and the golf outing. And I apologize for pulling my phone out, but it's all on my phone. Fisk Farm was awarded the Michigan Barn Preservation Network Barn of the Year for 2025 in the nonprofit category. So some of our board members attended, the Historical Society board members went and was accepted the award on the Historical Society. It's a great barn. We need to be aware of this great barn that we have here in White Lake. Thank you.
Very good. Trustee Smith.
Thank you. So I have a quick library update that I just want to highlight that they have put out their annual report for 2024. It's on their website and on Facebook, and I encourage you to check it out. It includes things like their milestones, their vision that they have set forth. It lets you know who's on their board with photographs. I think that's great to know what people look like that are running the library. It has their strategic plan achievements, all 4 goals, and then it has lots of fun facts that the library gets a chance to brag about. They've had 76,611 visits to the library, 814 minutes read during the summer. It goes on and on about how many times the study rooms have been used, how many books they have, how many people have attended, which is very impressive. Over 10,000 people have attended 459 programs. The facts go on and on for card holders, so I encourage all the residents to give that a quick glance. It's a very quick read. It's just a couple pages. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Yes, just wanted to bring everybody up to date. The Lakes Chamber had a great breakfast event for networking at Independence Village. It gave an opportunity for a lot of the local businesses to share the things that they can go ahead and partner with. The ZBA will have several cases coming up for the ZBA. And just wanted to let everybody know that the warm weather was brought back by my family when we were in Arizona last week. So you can thank me for that. The other thing, as far as for levity, don't forget to fill out your brackets for March Madness.
Very good. Okay, Mr. Roman.
I want to thank you all for tuning in today live, and those that are watching on TV, thanks for tuning in. And then I just wanted to say thanks to Kathy Droscher, Jason Hudson, and Chief Holland. You guys are all retiring. We're going to miss you all. Thanks for all your years of service. How many years now?
Approaching 40.
40 years, so.
He started when he was 9.
See, Dan, you got a ways to go.
Much appreciated. That's all I had.
All right. Mr. Noble.
I'd like to thank everybody for being here. I'd like to thank Chief Holland for 40 years of dedicated service, and gonna miss you. And Kathy Droscher for her years of service, and Jason Hudson, just found out on Friday he's leaving. And all 3 will be missed, and going on to next chapter of life, and wish you all well.
Thank you.
Mr. Ruggles.
Yeah, thanks. The Planning Commission met on March 6th. One of the issues was Elizabeth Trace, which we saw here tonight. The other was a potential development on Bogey Lake Road, right by the high school, 47-acre piece that we've talked about previously. This time there was a proposal to bring up 177 houses roughly which it was just conceptual review at the time, but didn't receive a lot of positive feedback from the planning commissioners. I'm not sure exactly what number will, but I guess we'll see in the future if they come back and request another visit. So that's coming down the pipe potentially, and they were talking about bringing sewer up to the project. The meeting on the 20th has been canceled. We'll meet again April 3rd, and that's all I have.
Okay. All right, well, I'd like to again thank everybody for being here tonight and on the tube. And as you can tell, this board, as always, is very passionate about what it does and some of the decisions that it makes. We don't take them lightly. So we try to make the best possible decision with the information at hand and trying to think forward. Death and taxes were the two things everybody said was inevitable in life. Well, death, taxes, and change. Change is inevitable. And we are changing and our community is moving forward. We're going to be changing the guard with some of our staff. And I wish to thank all of them for their years of service. And it's just going to be a change as this township moves forward. It's already changed. I've had a lot of comments on the Elizabeth Lake Road corridor. Now the lights are on, so there's actually change. We're not in the dark anymore. And they managed to make them work where two of them are out and they're still lit. Mike, I haven't figured that out. That Christmas tree theory of ours went out the window. So nonetheless, we will continue to have changes, hopefully for the positive, and continue to move the township forward. I look forward to seeing my fellow board members and other community members at our MTA conference in Grand Rapids this year, which will be the last week of this month. And hopefully we'll be able to network and learn a few things and maybe have a little fun while we're there too. There's no casinos nearby though, Mike.
I can't go this year.
Yeah, you're a little tied up.
I'm tied up.
Yeah. So, but, and I certainly want to reach out to my deputy Trish, who has taken on more tasks than you can shake a stick at and delved into so many different things with all the current events that the township is going through. So I certainly appreciate all her efforts. She is a very formidable woman. So with that, I say thank you all. Good night. God bless. And a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.